You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the Black and Gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Weird week.
I
got juggling everything this week.
I know. It's been
TV and I were chatting about it before you got here. It's like I've been moving this one to this and all these different shows more than any week I can remember.
Yeah. We did a lot of this a couple weeks ago when we were, of course, in Dublin and kind of moved our operation on the road and didn't get back till late Monday afternoon, early evening time. We'll have a little bit of a different week. This week is kind of today will be our day to recap.
Recap a great game, yeah.
Yeah, 23-9 victory for the Steelers over the Cleveland Browns. And then tomorrow we'll start quickly turning the page for this quick turnaround to the Cincinnati Bengals. But, Matt, it was a 23-9 victory for the Steelers. I wouldn't call it completely a blowout, but a decisive, I think, start-to-finish performance.
I think it was a very business-like performance. And like, if you didn't care one way or another about the Browns or Steelers, or if this was the Thursday night game and you're in Chicago or Seattle, you might be like, kind of boring game, you know?
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't have anything invested. It's like, not a ton happening here, but I never was threatened by the Browns. You know, like, I thought the best team controlled the action pretty much from the start and asserted, not dominance, but asserted their strength and that they were the better squad for sure. And that played out basically from start to finish. There wasn't any real moments where it's like, oh no, they're coming. That Viking moment in Dublin.
Exactly
you know,
right.
I didn't see much of that. And one of my biggest takeaways is defensively, I thought they created a lot of havoc and splash and big plays, and frankly could have had a lot more. I mean, 4 or 5 near interceptions. You know, like, I'm not even blaming them for it, but what if they would have picked off 2 of those? You
Fumble negated by the TJ Watt offsides as well, too, at one point.
A couple real close to being big splash plays on that side of the ball. And then on offense, I thought the opposite, in that very few negative plays. I mean, not every play was a home run or, but you were getting 2 yards on 2nd and 4, or, you know what I mean? Like, very few sacks or turnovers or just tackles for loss or negative plays in general. And on offense, I really think this sells the coaching staff short, but really a Rodgers thing too, because he's the one on the field at the line of scrimmage, and that Browns defense is really formidable.
Yes, it is.
Right.
That continues to be something to me that is growing.
Yeah.
It's still not I've been a couple weeks since I've used this one. It's still not a Mona Lisa for the Steelers offense. No. But I don't think it's your kindergartner scribbling something that you hang on the refrigerator for a couple days and before you throw it away as well, too.
Right. And maybe when he's 10 years old, it looks better. When
That's
he's
exactly
15-year-old, maybe he's a decent artist. Or right.
The run game continues to show some improvement.
Yeah.
Again, not a finished product, not great by any means, but they rushed for 100 yards against a defense that was very stingy in that department. Best run defense in the league.
Yeah.
And multiple.
And real quick on that, because I didn't do the math, but Mike Pursuta did, and I did a show with him earlier. If you eliminate really the garbage time, poor Caleb Johnson, like he's just running into like 10-man boxes, and the Rudolph kneel downs. Steelers basically got to 100 yards almost basically in 3 quarters in meaningful football. And averaged well over 4 yards a carry just on that stuff.
Yes.
Not the running into the boxes, eating up clock time.
Yes, correct. Absolutely. And some more of those explosive runs that we had been kind of jonesing for. Not a big 20, 30, 40, 50-yarder, but Jalen Warren had an 11-yarder. That counts as an explosive play.
Yeah, chunks.
Kenneth Gainwell had a 10-yarder. That counts as an explosive play. Jonnu Smith with a 10-yard carry as well, too. And then Caleb Johnson with a 9-yarder right on that precipice. So I liked what we saw in terms of, again, not a finished product, not a work of art, but moving in the right direction there. And I think you can say the same about the pass game as well, too.
I thought so, too, yeah.
I mean,
drove the ball down the field a little bit more.
A little bit more down the field. Another solid performance from DK Metcalf. 4th straight game with a touchdown for him.
Yeah.
That first play of the game, which I thought was awesome. Darnell Washington, a 36-yarder on the first play from scrimmage. DK Metcalf had a 25-yarder as well, too. I know the benchmark for explosive passes is 20 yards. but you had a 12-yard reception from Connor Hayward, 12-yard reception from Roman Wilson, 11-yard reception from Pat Freiermuth, more of that intermediate stuff.
Yeah, and 2 touchdown passes.
Two touchdown
that
passes.
happens every week now.
No turnovers for Rodgers. And once again, Matt, I know it wasn't the touchdown, but every game that the Steelers have played in this country, in the United States of America, Jack Nicholson, the departed, in this country,
yeah.
We don't walk around with automatic weapons. In this country, the Steelers have scored points on their opening drive of every single game so far. 2 touchdowns,
I didn't realize that.
2 field goals. The only opening possession all season that they don't have points was at Croke Park in Dublin against the Vikings. So again, a lot of these things that we talked about heading into the season.
Yeah.
They're not valedictorian level success yet.
No,
but they are moving in the right direction.
It's funny because that was exactly what I was going to say too. Is some of the concerns? Time of possession is getting better. It's getting better. It's really trending the right direction, no doubt. The explosive play differential getting a lot better. That was real bad before, Now it's getting better. The sack differential was,
it was crazy in the wrong department for the first few weeks.
Right. And
now it's flipping back
massively
big time.
Correcting. And they're, some of the things we talked about in the offseason, it should be this team's God-given right to lead the team in lead the league in sacks. Well, they're trending that way in a big way. And you're getting sacks from Queen and Ramsey and, like Vince Williams and Hilton used to, and, from everybody, and Herbigs and Madman and all those things. Harmon, and then there was one other too. Whatever. The throwing touchdowns and red zone's good and all that kind of stuff too.
Red zone's another great one.
Yeah, I feel like we're like good analysts because we've kind of nailed what they should do and this is how they should do it, and they seem to be agreeing with us, and it's coming around.
Exactly right. And I think this was what you wanted to see against this team that, yes, has a strong defense.
It does.
But also, we know, like the Browns, they are maybe in a way kind of trapped a little bit in the same formula that the Steelers were in a couple years ago when they were bouncing back and forth between Pickett and Trubisky and Mason Rudolph of like, you can win some games, but it has to go exactly according to this format, to this script. You got them off of that script early on. Dylan Gabriel threw the ball, it was 52 times, right? 52 times. I think
he dropped back 58 because he was sacked 6 of those.
Exactly right.
That is not the way. If you told me he dropped back 58 times, that can't be the plan.
Can't be the plan.
Right.
And I think we all would have liked the Steelers' chances to win if we would have known that was the case. Quinshon Judkins, 12 carries for 36 yards. Matt, I'm no genius, but I can do the quick math on that one. That's 3 yards per carry.
Yeah.
For a guy that was top 5 in rushing in the league going into yesterday.
Yep.
I think just job accomplished across the board.
Yeah, you beat me to it on him, too. That was the exact next thing I was going to say is the 2 players in this game I feared most were Myles Garrett, obviously, and Judkins, who I think is their best offensive and best defensive player. The show I do with Pursuit, I did with Rob King. He's like, I don't think I mentioned Myles Garrett in the play-by-play. And Judkins was a non-factor in this game, too.
Non-factor.
Right.
12 carries for 36 yards. You would have signed in blood for that.
Absolutely.
Before kickoff. And same with Myles Garrett. And how about that, Matt? How about some credit for Broderick Jones?
Played really well.
Perhaps his best game in the black and gold, his best game in a Steelers uniform. I think at least certainly since, this year when he moved to the left side of the offensive line. And it wasn't just him, it was everybody on that offensive line.
No, he got help.
No doubt.
Right.
No doubt.
Not every snap, but
he
got help.
There were some moments where Rodgers was under duress and had to get rid of that thing quickly to be expected.
But his sack avoidance was really good.
Very good.
Yeah.
He got rid of it quick when the pressure was coming, and he made just enough moves. And listen, he's not mobile 30-year-old Aaron Rodgers anymore.
No, he's not going to just sprint away from people.
But he still has the savvy to when he can diagnose it and sees it coming, can buy himself that extra half second that he needs.
Because he knows where it's coming from.
He knows exactly right. His game brain is so evolved at this point.
Even like how he moved Hayward around for the touchdown pass. He's like,
exactly right. Exactly right. He was,
right.
A couple series before that, he was trying to do a similar thing with Pat Freiermuth down the field, and I just don't think Pat saw him, and it was a longer developing play, so that's understandable. But yeah, just to me, you win comfortable. Okay, we could easily look at it and say maybe you should have beat him 30-9 or 33-9, but you win comfortable. It's never in doubt.
I think if 1 or 2 of those picks that were super close, it might have just been
could be a completely different story.
And again, I never thought they were really challenged.
Never.
Right.
I mean, even at halftime there when it was only 9-3 and it's still a one-score game and Cleveland's getting the ball coming out of the half, like
I was never super worried.
About it. And Steelers again kind of bookending, I guess that's the wrong way to put it because that would be at the beginning and the end of game, but points on their first drive of the first half, points on their second drive of the second half, or first drive of the second half, pardon me. Each half, first possession yielded points. I said that very sloppily.
Yeah. When you have time to prepare for the half,
they
came out and put points on the board.
They came out and put points on the board. Those to me are, again, those are some of the things that we've been looking for. Those are the things that if this defense is going to develop like we think they can and be one of the best units in the league, if the offense can continue to grow and just get to that above average to slightly above average standpoint.
Just keep baby stepping,
They're starting to check those boxes to hit a lot of those indicators that we've been laying out here for the last couple months.
Yeah, and you would think they're not little things. I was about to say little things, but like it's pretty clear how they're using their tight ends now.
Yeah.
They may not have known that in going into week one. We like all these guys, but how's the best way to use them? If you're Freiermuth, you're not thrilled about it, but not everyone can play all the time.
Sure.
The Anderson is glaring, addition / the way of using things. Now it's minor, but I just want to throw it out there. But like Caleb Johnson got 6 carries. Like, is this the beginning of his process of okay, maybe?
I think so.
Come November, you're going to be comfortable with him too. Like we saw so much of this on defense because of their injuries. They had to play Ekwale and
Eccles a lot.
Eccles, and for the most part, they've all been successes. But now you know what you have, even if they're the depth guys. You know what I mean?
Even with someone like Sawyer as well, too.
Yeah. A lot of those guys played a lot of snaps, and you at least know who they are and how to use them now. The running back room is starting to shape up a little bit, too. Like, pretty clear Warren's the one, even if the box score is a little grayer than it was. But he's clearly the best player in that room. You know what I mean? And, even we had some questions about the wide receiver room, which scares me outside of Metcalf, to be frank. But Miller was clearly the 2, and Roman was the 3. And, he only ran 8 routes, but you could see their roles. They didn't want 3 receivers on the field hardly at all.
Right.
They didn't have to.
No, and that's something that continues to be part of the game plan.
Yeah.
Certainly now, especially in the second straight week. For the second straight week, Darnell Washington did lead the Steelers tight end room in snaps. 47 for Darnell Washington out of a possible
tight end
59. He's tight end 1 right now.
Yeah, he's tight end 1.
And do you think that is the case even if the Steelers were to line up? Hey, maybe,
I think it is going to be every week now.
Maybe this Thursday, Cincinnati's a good example. A defense that's not as stout in the run game.
I do.
You think that's the case moving forward?
Which I love. I mean, I've been calling for this. We've been calling for this. I think he's just so hard to play against, even if you don't use him much as a receiver. But they are using him more and more as a receiver. He's running more routes. He's a ridiculously big target. You could tell Rodgers trusts him and is lobbying for him, I'm sure, too. And I think Rodgers carries some weight in this.
Just a little bit.
Right.
Just a little bit.
And I don't think Freiermuth's even in the doghouse. It's just there's only so many snaps to go around. If Anderson's going to be out there 20-plus snaps and Washington's well over 40 into the 50 neighborhood, well, Metcalf's going to be out there, running back's going to be out there. What's left? You know?
Absolutely.
And John, who's playing on passing downs a lot.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Freiermuth's, unfortunately, is kind of getting scraps.
47 snaps for Darnell Washington out of 59 for the offense.
Yeah.
41 for Jonnu, so not terribly far behind.
No.
Pat Freiermuth with 21. Connor Hayward with 6. And, as you mentioned, I think you kind of have to put Spencer Anderson in that, that extra package.
Yeah,
that
he lines up in a
package.
tight end spot.
17 snaps for him.
Yeah.
In that.
17 out of a possible 59. I was just pulling it up now.
In that regard. So, that is now 2 weeks in a row that it's looked very similar to that. It was a smaller number for Freiermuth in Dublin than it was
I think
here.
He was in the doghouse of that.
I think that was a little bit different. And I don't think that means that we're going to see Freiermuth in a relegated role the entire season. I think at some point he'll have a big part to play in this offense.
His time will come too, right.
His time will come too, but I think that's kind of, again, we spent so much time in OTAs and minicamp and particularly training camp, when the Minka trade had been made and all those things as well too, talking about these tight ends, their different skill sets, how you can attack and kind of manipulate defenses with this group. That's another thing that it took some time for the offense, for all of them to get on the same page, for Aaron Rodgers to get, to get mogenation, as Wolf would have said, with all of his new teammates. And I think they're starting to get comfortable. It's like they were dipping their toes in the shallow end for a little bit.
Yeah, you're tasting at Baskin & Robbins or whatever. Like, I want the strawberry. Little
sampler here, but they've identified, that cookies and cream down there.
Yeah, that was the best one.
It's pretty good. Yep. Let's stay in that department for a little bit.
Wolf would probably appreciate that too.
He certainly would. He absolutely would. A Victory Donut Monday today for our buddy Craig Wolfley.
So here's a little more of that tight end stuff I just want to expand on. So this probably doesn't shock anyone, but Washington's played 45 or more snaps in each of the last 2 games. He played 30 or fewer in the first 3. They've clearly dedicated to him. It's not a one-off. He's playing a nice jump.
He's leveling up a little bit more
than what was his highest. And then just for pass plays, Smith was on the field for like 68%. Okay. Washington was about 61%. Okay. And Freiermuth for about 45% of just when they called a pass.
Yes. That, I think, paints a better picture for Muth and again, it's I don't think just because it's been this way for the last 2 weeks means it's going to be this way for the next 12.
No, right.
But it's also nice too that if you do go back to, all right, we're going to be pass heavier this week, it's going to be more Muth and Jonnu this week.
Or if you get down, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like
it's a great point.
One of my issues with I love the 13 personnel stuff, and I love the Jonnu trade, well, the Ramsey part of it too, but the Jonnu addition, like you're doing something that's unique. But one of my concerns was inevitably at some point during the season,
it's going to be down 10 points.
You're going to be down 10 points in the fourth quarter, and no one cares that you got a good matchup against Darnell versus safety because it's an 8-yard gain. Like eventually Rodgers is going to have to drop back there and fling it all over. It's going to happen at some point. Can you do that?
And you're going to want Pat Freiermuth when that time comes.
I mean, right now that it's probably you put Washington down, Freiermuth, Jonnu, Metcalf, Austin, hopefully. And that's what you got. Again, I would love another receiver still too. But I'm starting to get greedy on that, by the way. Why not?
Why not?
Right.
It's
a good team.
It's a good team who's in a great position.
Yeah.
By the way, as they keep winning and everyone else in the AFC North keeps losing. And man, you have really got an opportunity to put a stranglehold on this division before Halloween even here in a few days in Cincinnati. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about that. I want to talk about some of the edge rusher usage.
Ooh, baby.
Because there's some juicy stuff there. How about this? Nick Herbig playing the most snaps of the Steelers edge rushers.
Yeah.
It was very close, to be fair. He played 61% of the snaps, TJ Watt 60%, Alex Highsmith 57%.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and Sawyer was over 20 snaps.
Sawyer was as well too, and
some
it
wasn't all garbage.
Some of that, I was going to say, some of that is skewed because at the end of the game, the Steelers were resting some of their
the broadcasters thought Watt was hurt, which I don't think was the case.
I don't think it was the case at all. No,
I mean the game was out of reach, and they just set him down.
Yes,
which is exactly what they should do.
Mike Tomlin just had his press conference a couple hours ago on a Monday this week because it's the short week.
I'm sure we'll cover it over
obviously.
The next 2 hours here.
And when he discussed injury stuff, there was no mention of TJ Watt or anything.
Yeah.
All relatively good news on the injury department. Didn't sound overly optimistic about Calvin Austin for this week, but I think it would be, Packers game at the latest.
Killebrew's the only one we're really worried about.
Killebrew the only one who, Mike Tomlin said the same thing. He said post-game it's a significant injury and he's going to miss some time.
I was worried just watching it in game, though. It seemed like a defensive back there for a while. It was in and out all the time.
Yes.
I'm like
Ramsey got the wind knocked out of him at one point. Joey Porter Jr. missed a couple. Slay missed a couple.
Eccles limped off or had a shoulder or something for a minute.
Seems like they were all just, as Mike Tomlin would say, bumps and bruises associated with play.
Yeah.
And nothing that's gonna hamper them or hurt them.
I even thought too, I'm like, glad Ramsey's healthy or played this game, not because he was 100%. So good, but he can play all those roles. Like, we lost a corner, we lost a slot, we lost a safety. Jalen, go do it.
That's why his value is immense, just because he can wear so many hats for that team. You need him on the outside, you need him in the slot, you need him at safety. He's got you
Great
covered.
At all of them, right?
He's got you covered wherever wherever you need to be.
You want to stick with this edge stuff,
But
though?
You and I kind of spent some time talking about what does it look like when Highsmith is back. Herbig has been so good. Matt, I think the way that they value and appreciate Herbig right now and view him right now can be summed up by this. You know this, I'm sure most of the listeners do, but the Steelers introduce one of the units before every home game.
Rob told me this. I was going to bring it up too.
So it flip-flops. And so for the first home game against Seattle, I think it makes a lot of sense. The Steelers organization, we all know, usually leans toward the defensive side of the football. That's kind of the history of the organization. But it's Aaron Rodgers.
First home game.
You want him to get that pop
Dude's
in front of the crowd.
Great. Right.
Yeah. So it was the defense that got introduced for this one. And they introduced 12 guys on that defense, Matt.
I caught that, including Herbig. Yeah.
They included Herbig in there as well, too. And they not only showed him that love in the intro to introduce him as an extra starter, they also backed that up with the way they used him throughout the game.
A million percent. So here's one stat that came out of the game, and this came straight from NFL.com. This is, not because I don't always like in my stat pack. I usually don't put pressures in there because, who's calling that a pressure or not? Blah blah blah.
Sure.
But if it comes straight from the league, I'm going to cite it at least on the air. He had 8 pressures in this game. That's the second time this year that he's had 8 or more. 2 games he's had 8 pressures or more.
He missed a game with injury as well, too.
Right, and he's not a full-time player to start season, oh, by the way. There's 3 players in the league that have had 8 pressures multiple times this year. It's him, it's Aiden Hutchinson, and it's Micah Parsons.
It's pretty good company.
Yeah, I mean, folks, I've said this a few times, and I'm going to stress it even more and more now. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league. Period. End of sentence.
Point blank, period. Full stop.
Yes, and he can play either side. He's fine versus the run. He's not a liability versus the run. He's an exceptional football player. I love Highsmith. I love Watt. Herbig can't be off the field much. And I love the way that they did it, too.
Yes.
You got to lead. TJ's definitely the guy you sit down. Of course, age, respect, all those things.
Fresh.
Keep all these guys fresh. And I was a little critical of the Sawyer pick, but he's doing his job. If that's your 4th guy, is just a power player, inning eater,
fine.
Power, play hard, try to maximize his stuff too. I'm sure he's learning from the other 3 in the process. What a great room to grow up in too. But Herbig's a star, folks. He's not he's kind of a cute player. He's the 12th guy. No. If you rank those 12, he might be 3rd or 4th. Right. He's a great player.
He's been one of their best 5 players this season.
Yeah.
Forget value and position and all that stuff. If you're just listing who's been the top 5 Steelers through 5 games, right? Yeah, through 5 games.
If you grade every snap they were on the field, who grades the best?
He's in the top 5.
No one beats him.
He might be in the top 3.
Right.
He might be number 1.
Just efficiency per snap. And he's really done that his whole career. He's been one that's kind of like the Warren conversation. He averages a lot more yards per carry than Najee, but would he against base defenses and not have, 3rd and 8s to get a draw for 6 yards, which is a valid conversation. But Herbig, it's doesn't matter how many snaps you get him, he still is a 300 hitter. It's not like he can just pinch hit.
Exactly.
What I mean?
There was a time when you could say, he's having great success, but the sample size is small. That's not the case anymore.
And he benefits from TJ on the other side.
It's not the case anymore.
No, he's great.
He's outstanding.
Great.
It reminds me a little bit of that last year that Bud Dupree was here.
Mm-hmm.
And him and TJ were playing at such a high level.
Yeah.
And Bud got the contract from the Titans to prove it.
Yeah.
But then there was this 3rd-round rookie out of Charlotte, Alex Highsmith, who, every time he was on the field, you were like, man, that guy's good.
He's good.
That guy's making plays. And you started to think it's just, okay, because he's hopping off the bench. He's getting the right matchups. TJ and Bud are wearing these
all
guys.
Day, right. Yeah.
But then it eventually became undeniable that, Highsmith is pretty good at this, too. And then his 2nd year, he has double-digit sacks and is probably one of the top 10 or 12 edge rushers in the league.
Yeah. Then it's his turn to get paid.
It's his turn to get paid.
Right,
and it's
and they deserve it.
Is reminding me of Herbig right now, but maybe even, and this is not a knock on Highsmith, this is credit to Herbig, maybe even a little bit of a step better than what we saw
as a pass rusher,
from Herbig in his early career.
Exactly. He's a star. I mean, every team's going to look at him like, man, we're going to have a really hard time blocking that dude. And we're going to, it doesn't matter who you are.
Yes.
And it didn't hurt, but this is one game. The Browns tackle situation fell apart as the game went on. We knew the left tackle was going to be bad. Conklin's a little overrated anyways, then he gets hurt. So it's But every team has bad tackles. You know what
A lot
I mean?
of teams around. You
Right.
say this all the time. It's like the worst group of units around the league is
Yeah.
offensive line.
His offensive line.
Whoever you think has the best offensive line in the NFL,
Right.
if you gave their O-line coach truth serum, he would tell you, I still wish we could upgrade at left guard, or I still wish our center was better. Or,
It's still not the best unit on their team or whatever.
Right,
You know, right.
right.
Yeah. I mean, nobody has linemen.
Nobody has linemen. Everyone is looking for help in that department, and that makes it a great place to be for the Steelers to have just the weaponry that they have.
To exploit that stuff week after week. You're right.
And boy, Cam Hayward's playing at a high level, and Derek Harmon's playing well,
right.
and Keanu Benton's playing
Benton's
well.
in a much better role now
So
than
much
leading
better.
the team in snaps, and
He might-
Ekwale, and
He might be the guy on the team that I think, and I mean this in the best way, has done like the biggest 180 over these last couple weeks.
his tape was very concerning to start the season. I mean,
Very
he was
concerning.
in the laps of the linebackers all the time, getting pancaked 5 yards downfield.
And part of that is, hey, you got to control what you can control, right?
Yeah.
Plenty of people in the NFL are not in the most optimal situation to succeed.
It's rough, right?
But part of that was also his usage, without a doubt. There's a
Out
real
there too much. And
there's a
too
real
much running down.
rhyme behind that reason too. His usage, his deployment, I think, has been much better to suit his skill set since you got Derek Harmon back, and it's showing.
It's showing in a big way. Right.
It absolutely is.
And this is true for Cam too. I mean, all those guys, and this is true for across the league. Week 1, no one's in shape.
Right.
You know, I mean, not like this kind of shape. They're in shape compared to me and you and everybody listening, but they're not in shape to play 60 snaps against the Jets. You know, I mean, that's a different world.
100%,
Right.
100%. And I mean,
After
you're
playing max like 10 in the preseason, you know?
yes,
Right.
it takes time for everybody, but I think particularly those guys in the trenches.
They're big.
Because
There's a lot of fat on their body, and they're big, right?
They're not wide receivers and running backs and defensive backs who are running routes at least all throughout July
You
and
can
August.
simulate running routes. I mean, you could run a million sprints.
A lot of cardio.
Yeah. But I can't fight, Zach Frazier for 60 snaps in a row, or I'm never going to survive,
I thought my boy Zach Frazier had himself a very solid game as well, too.
Steeler line in general, those tackles are coming around, too.
Tackles are coming around. They're looking much, much better. No sacks for the Browns. They did have 6 TFLs, which is a little high, but when the Steelers have 6 sacks, their own selves 6 TFLs as well. I mean, and it's just coming from all over the place. Peyton Wilson with a TFL, Ramsey with 2 sacks and 2 TFLs, TJ half sack, Harmon has a sack, Highsmith half sack, Pierre with a TFL.
Pierre got thrust into action and been okay too.
Yeah.
Right.
Again,
if that's your 5th corner, your 4th corner that's always going to be active on game day, fine. He used to get thrust in as like the 3rd guy.
Right.
Well, that's a little scary.
Sometimes the number 2 guy at points in his career as well too. No, again, it's all coming together. Cole Holcomb is getting more spin and more reps than we've seen.
Like Clark was inactive because you didn't need him.
Right.
Peppers had an uneven day, but like he's moved past him.
Yes, he did, no doubt. And so it's a good place to be for the Steelers defense, is performing the best that they have at this point in the season, as healthy as they've been at this point in the season. And
the tests are going to get tougher. Maybe not Thursday, but I mean, that's not the best offense in the league.
No,
we
it's
know
not.
that.
But they obviously still have some guys that can beat you and can hurt you, and we'll talk plenty about that.
They create havoc.
Yes,
chaos,
no doubt, and that is difficult for offenses, for quarterbacks. I don't care if you're a rookie Dylan Gabriel, or if you're a veteran Joe Flacco. That's a tough defense to play against. We're obviously going to see both opposite ends of that spectrum, as it'll be a little over 3 days from right now, when the Steelers. Wow. Yeah. I know that is crazy to say out loud, are kicking off there at Paycor Stadium against Cincinnati. They're, of course, coming off a loss at Lambeau Field against the Packers. Plenty more on Cincinnati tomorrow and as we roll along in the week. But, yeah, I'm starting to feel very good about this defense, more encouraged by the offense, Matt. And, again, at 4-1, your only loss being an NFC loss at this point as well, too. Ravens lost again. They're 1-5. You beat the Browns. Bengals lost again. You can really, I think, stick a fork in Cincinnati with a win on Thursday.
The Browns and Bengals are shot.
They just have to be. They just have to be at this point.
And we'll get into it, but Flacco helped them a little.
Definitely.
I mean, it was better than it's been.
Definitely helped them a little bit, but hopefully it'll just stay in that realm and won't be too much of a help here.
Than ever. And Hendrickson got hurt.
Hendrickson got hurt too.
Mims got hurt at right tackle. I mean, I don't know what their status is, but Anderson was ruled out
on a short week.
On a short week. Come on, man. Yeah, it's bad.
We'll get into some more of Thursday nights have not been kind to the Steelers and Mike Tomlin,
especially on the road
as of late. But this feels like the good opportunity, the right opponent to exercise some of those demons. Matt, we do have a few minutes here till we got to get to our buddy Rob King, who. Yeah, I know you do the recap show with him and Mike Pursuta. Did Kinger mention his love for DeKalen?
Oh, it came up quite a bit. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was throwing everybody for a loop.
Yeah, we replayed that, and you might even know better than I do, but I guess he talked to DK, and DK said, I prefer it.
Yes.
But I go by DK because everybody mispronounces it.
Yes.
And then Pursuta, the typical writer background, he's like, well, it's not D.K. It's just DK.
Just DK.
Right,
yes.
Right. So maybe that's a thing. And Rob's, we'll have to bring it up to him. I shouldn't spoil it.
We will.
We'll call him in a minute. Anyway,
but yeah, Rob talked to Mr. Metcalf this week.
Yeah.
And was like, does anybody call you DeKalen? What's the story behind DK? And he said, I actually prefer to be called DeKalen, but it's just everyone messed up my name, and so DK became a nickname. That's what Rob gets for being like a real savvy journalist media guy.
That's what I said.
He's in a tough spot because
he doesn't know what to do.
Because he says, I want to be called DeKalen, but everyone else is like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, well, you're in a new uniform. It's time for a change. I like it.
We'll get the scoop from Kinger here in just a few minutes. Yeah. But first,
I didn't know. When he said it, I'm like, did you make? I didn't know that was even his name.
I didn't either.
I don't know TJ's first name either.
I do. It's Trent.
I learned
Trent Jordan.
I should, but yeah.
Moats used to make this joke that you can tell if somebody is important in Wes's life because he knows their full government name.
Oh, wow.
Like Trent Jordan Watt.
Okay.
Sidney Patrick Crosby.
Gotcha.
Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger.
Matthew Craig Williamson.
Exactly
there
right.
There you go.
Tyler Video Weitmeyer, something like that, I think is TV's middle name. Yes, that's it. You got listen.
Anyone's middle name. No, I think about it, right?
You know mine?
Heck no.
Starts with a V.
I know it starts with a V, but the name that I call you is not right for air.
We'll leave it at that. I did want to run this by you before we get to Rob King, the King.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers' average time to throw against Cleveland, 2.73 seconds.
A little longer, yeah.
Second longest of his Steelers' career so far.
Mm-hmm.
Also, nearly 7.7 yards average depth of target.
Yes.
That is by far his highest average depth of target this season by more than a yard. Again, starting to see some of that stuff that we've been, this offense isn't sustainable if they continue to. Yeah, there's some truth to that.
Sure.
But slowly.
Well, we're seeing more and more.
Slower than we all want. Sure. This is a instant gratification world.
Work on all these things at your own pace while you win.
That's it. And you and I say this all the time. Like, I get it. I'm not calling people crazy. We love football. It's by far the most popular sport in this country. It's religion in this country. Your team plays 17 meaningful games a year, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
The Browns played like 3 or 4 meaningful games this year. The Ravens probably aren't going to play many more meaningful games this year. You get 17 if you're lucky. I understand why we're so hyperbolic, why we overreact to everything so much. They were not going to win a Super Bowl or win playoff games playing the way they did in September. But I don't expect them to.
They know that.
They know that. And I don't expect them to play the way in September they do on Thanksgiving. I don't expect them to play in January the way they do on Thanksgiving, but we're starting to see some of those indicators, some of those numbers, some of those trends move in the right direction.
Yeah, just in the average depth of target going up / time to throw. He bought more time. I mean, like, Lamar's always at the top of the league because he'll have 2 or 3 plays a game where it's like 6 seconds. This totally screws up the whole thing because he runs around like crazy. Of course, the Steelers are never going to do that.
Patrick Mahomes running around for 9 seconds before dumping one off to Kelsey.
Like, I bet Rodgers had several over 3. Because there was times he was moving around, buying time, avoiding.
The Hayward touchdown pass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or just rolling out and comfortable in space and not having to get it out. So I think that's part of it. One thing we talked about a lot last week, coming off that Viking game was, this Anderson-Washington, especially the Anderson thing, is that here to stay? Well, maybe you throw off it against a team that is such a good run defense. Put that guy on Garrett and max protect. Anderson can also pass protect. He's an offensive lineman. I think we saw some of that. And what I think is obvious, and it was hard to back up, but it was just something we've suspected from the start, is if you play, Rodgers is going to take what the defense gives him. Like this is a predominantly single high safety, big box, don't want to be in nickel and dime, Browns defense a lot. So if I got Metcalf against a corner who's a good player that they just traded for 2 days ago, I'm going to take a shot there.
Yep.
I'm going up top against single high. If you're going to give me a lot of too high, I'm going to dink and dunk you to death. Like there's no perfect defense, and he knows that better than all of us.
Exactly right. If you want him to take the middle of the field, he'll take the middle of the field. You want him to take deep shots, he'll take deep shots. If you got to
run it over and over and over,
you got to paper cut him to death. Absolutely. And when you can open the game the way that they open the game, I think that makes that so much more realistic as well, too.
Helps play with a little bit of lead, right? Yeah. Or not from behind.
Not from behind, and just, that corned beef package.
Yeah.
It was all run. We're gonna mash you in Dublin against the Vikings.
But the Vikings want to be a nickel and have lighter linebackers.
Exactly right.
Yeah, right.
And then the first series against Cleveland, first play from scrimmage, it's like, here they come with that big corned beef again. Whoop, over your head for 36 yards.
36 yards.
Now, the rest of the game, the remaining 59 and a half minutes, every time they come out in that corned beef, you're like, oh, I got to be careful because they might slip Darnell out and whoop, right over our head. Like, that's where you start to be able to play that matchup card that we've been talking about for months as well, too.
Yeah, and we opened the show talking about how the offense had very few negative plays. And to me, that's such a Rodgers thing. And again, that's cutting the coaching staff short. I mean, it's not fair to blame the offensive coordinator when things go wrong, but just give the quarterback all the credit when things go right or whatever, But I think that's a huge part of it is I'm always going to get you at the line of scrimmage in the best play for this look with the people I have on the field with me with 3 seconds left on the play clock or whatever. They don't let you pause and go to the bathroom and think about it and get a beer. You got to think about this stuff on the fly. And that doesn't mean your left guard doesn't get whipped right off the bat and you get sacked or you fumble the snap or the drop pass or bad things are still going to happen, a holding call, blah, blah, blah. But if I can consistently play the right cards in poker to give myself the best chance to beat my opponent, he's always going to get you there for that.
That's a great way to put it. He's going to play the odds.
Yeah.
Knowing
to hold him, when to fold him.
He's going to play the odds every time, whether it's going to be successful or not.
Right.
Again,
there's execution errors. Right.
Nothing's perfect, but more often than not, he's going to have you in the right position.
Like we said, and the guys on defense are on scholarship too. They're not bad. They can make
Jim
plays.
Schwartz guy, is known for that type of thing. Good first hour in the books here, kind of recapping everything that happened yesterday at Acrisure Stadium in that 23-9 victory over Cleveland. And to the phone lines we go to talk to the voice of your Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, Rob King. Kinger, you got to settle something for us here, all right? You got to peel back the curtain a little bit, little transparency, little how the sausage is made, if you will, for our audience. We were laughing about your DeKalen Metcalf story.
Yeah, I thought that was coming.
and kind of the conundrum that you find yourself in here because you did good journalistic, good broadcaster work, and you found out the pronunciation of one of the players and what he prefers to be called. But now it's confusing a lot of people because I think most people don't even know his first name is DeKalen, let alone when you say it on a broadcast. This kind of reminds me, Kinger, I know you'll remember this, Matt, I think you might as well too. The back-to-back cup-winning Pens of the 16, 17, 2018 years had a player named Connor Sherry.
Yes.
Who everybody called Connor Sheary for years until he just told people casually, actually, it's Sherry. And then broadcasters were confused and fans were confused for months and months and months. So paint us this picture, how you brought this up with DK, with DeKalen, and where you go now that he's told you he prefers to be called DeKalen, but everybody else is scratching their heads and asking you why you're doing this.
I've painted myself into an unneeded corner in which to be painted. Yeah, so I just went up to him. I don't know what possessed me to ask the question. I just said, hey, is there any circumstance under which you'd like to be called DeKalen when I'm broadcasting a game? Just like I'll ask guys about pronunciations and nicknames and other things, just to make sure they're cool with stuff. Darius Slay doesn't like Darius. He just likes Slay. Well, at some point you have to say Darius, right? And then after that, you can say Slay. So I asked him, And he said, well, no, actually, I prefer DeKalen. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, everyone just mispronounced it, so they call me DK. So I was like, well, do you want me to call you that? And he goes, yeah, and I can't remember it. I was like, what? What do I do now?
Are you torn going forward?
I mean, I'm probably going to go back to DK, to be honest. And I may go up now and unnecessarily again apologize to him and tell him that. But it's not like, you have all these national broadcasters. Hockey is mostly a local game with the occasional national broadcast. The NFL isn't that way. It's a national game that has, local broadcasts concurrently. But most people are watching the game, except hopefully here in Pittsburgh, they're listening to it. Sound down. So it's not going to reverse the national trend, and it's only going to create some confusion. So I got DeKalen in for the touchdown, probably work it in on occasion, but I'll probably have to go back to the DK. I think I have to, because that's what everybody knows him as. Well,
he's playing pretty well. He's scoring every week. So whatever you're doing, just keep it up, all right. You guys. That's right. Things are starting to come around on offense. And I thought the offensive line took a nice step forward yesterday.
Look, I think everything you want to do is obviously predicated on the offensive line. I mean, clearly you have to have, especially the right quarterback and some playmakers that you can get the ball to. But it starts up front. And the Steelers have said that. I mean, they've said, look, we want to be able to bully teams and use our physicality up front on both offense and defense. And it is nice when you can bring in a Spencer Anderson. And maybe Darnell Washington is just here to stay as your starting tight end because of his versatility in both blocking and pass catching. But you would ideally like your 5 to be able to beat their 4 up front. And, I just don't think that the offensive line was quite ready to do that yet. At the beginning of the season, you had, and I've sort of mentioned Max Starks, not sort of, I have mentioned Max Starks in regard to this because I had a question for him. He's the former offensive lineman who switched positions. How many weeks do you need for guys switching positions? Again, Broderick Jones has been playing right tackle. Now he's playing left tackle. Troy Fautanu played left tackle in college. Now he's playing right tackle. And I know they went through it in camp and in preseason, but Max says, no, you got to give these guys 5 or 6 games just for switching sides. And I asked him about the rookie thing and the talent thing. He said, look, if they're talented enough because they were taken in the first round. So you don't worry about the talent. You just worry about the differences on changing sides. And so I think that goes a long way to it. I think we all feel like the interior of that offensive line is pretty solid. The tackles are the ones, by and large, that are going to have to deal with the pass rush. They held up well. Now, Cleveland's a different story. They get a lot of pressure from the interior. And I thought that interior of the offensive line for the Steelers did an excellent job. We were talking to Mike Prizzuta earlier, Matt, you and I, and the Steelers, you take away the 3 kneel downs from at the end of the game from Mason Rudolph, and they average 4 yards a carry against the defense, allowing only 3 yards a carry.
Yeah.
You take away the Caleb Johnson obvious runs, and the yards per carry gets even better. Now, are we trying to gloss over the statistics? No, we're just trying to point out the fact that the running game was more effective than if you just looked at the box score and said, 3.6 yards a carry. No, it was better than that. So, and that all starts with the offensive line. All credit to Jaylen Warren and Gainwell and Caleb Johnson, but it has to start up front, and it is improving. It's one of the areas that needed to improve from the beginning of the year onward. If you were going to be the kind of team that you hope to be, and for me, the arrow is definitely pointing up. Definitely.
Rob, and kind of maybe same church, different pew, Matt and I use that term, the team you want to be, and I think that's a great way to put it. Matt and I have been kind of following a few key indicators in that regard since training camp. Average yards per run, yards per carry was one of them. Explosive play differential was one of them. Sack differential was another one. And, man, this Steelers defensive front, it took a little time for it to come together. Cam Hayward's slower start, I think that was to be expected. You didn't have your first-round pick, Derek Harbin, for the first couple weeks of this season. Because of that, it felt like Keanu Benton was a little miscast. You lose Alex Highsmith for a period of time as well, too. But I think finally they've gotten healthier. They've gotten everybody up to speed. Nick Herbig has continued to prove and emerge to star-capable qualities here at this point. If they are going to be the team that they want to be, I think the defense is starting to check a lot of those boxes and looking the part.
Yeah, they are, and I think you underscored all the main points there, Wes. You know, there was the hold in with Cam Hayward, and you know, week one, I think because of that and because there was no Harmon, you know, I did not have a great feeling about week one against the Jets because you knew what they were going to do based upon the personnel they have and based upon what we saw at the end of last year, which was especially that playoff game. You know, the Ravens just sledgehammering it at the Steelers, and the Steelers incapable of stopping it. So what were they going to do? They were going to do that. And look, you know, we've talked about this before. Injuries are going to happen, and that's why you have to have that good depth. It's impossible to have great depth everywhere, by the way, in a team. That's just it's not going to happen. And no offense to anybody else, but I think we saw what a gigantic loss not having Deshaun Elliott was out there.
Yeah.
You know, gets a sack in Minnesota, gets an interception, leads the team in tackles this week. He's a really, really good player. So I do think that the defense is coming together. I do think it starts up front. You know, if you really want to unleash the full powers of your corners, you know, it's a pretty simple formula in an ideal world. And of course, nothing's quite ideal, but you stop the run. Okay, great. Then you force them into second or third and long. And what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to throw. So guess what? Now you have three corners who you love. Joey Porter Jr. added, you know, with the additions of Slay and Ramsey, who had 2 sacks yesterday. Now you can blanket coverage, and you have such faith in those guys. Now you can start bringing blitzes. I mean, Deshaun Elliott had a sack last week. Jalen Ramsey had 2 sacks this week. You know, Matt and his Matt Stats talked about how much more they're blitzing. Patrick Queen being effective in that regard. It is starting, and to me, it starts with stopping the run, but you have to have that personnel behind it and a scheme that fits it. And right now, it's looking like all of those things are starting to drop into place.
Let's stick with Queen a little bit because I think he can get overshadowed with some of the star power on that side of the ball and some of the new faces, you know, Ramsey and Slay, et cetera, Harmon. But I think they've weaponized Queen a lot more as just an attack player. He's a phenomenal athlete. I mean, you watch the games live in the building, you really see his speed and change of direction and explosiveness better than you do, you know, on TV. I think Queen's turning a corner with the team right now.
Well, I mean, he's a 2-time Pro Bowler, and I know Pro Bowl and All-Pro aren't the same things, but it's not like he's not decorated. But you know, Matt, I wondered what they were going to do when they got him and how they were going to utilize him. Because in 2022 for the Ravens, he had 5 sacks. And then the next year when he was a second-year All-Pro, he had 3.5 sacks. And for the Steelers, you know, they did not utilize him that way. He had 1 sack last year. Now he had 129 tackles, right? Tackling machine. But is that absolutely the best use of him? You know, and he had 3 interceptions in his last 2 years combined in Baltimore. So is he going to be a cover guy for you? Is he going to be a blitz guy for you? Does he have to be one or the other? Can he utilize him both ways? Well, I just think we saw that they really weren't utilizing him in anything but coverage for the most part, you know, with the Steelers last year. Now this year, we're seeing more and more of the full range. You know, this is a guy, you know, to use the old cliche, he's got a lot of tools in his toolbox. You're not just handing him a hammer and saying, "Hey, go fix the sunroom." You know, you're giving him the whole tool belt and saying, "Let's get the job done." And he's got a varied tool belt. There's a lot of things he can do, and you're right. I think you're really right to point him out because I think he's been excellent, and I think you know, we're starting to see. You know, you talk about up front and you talk about personnel. But you have to utilize that personnel in the way that best fits their skills. And I think we're seeing, you know, Patrick Queen be unleashed more because of the fact that you have better personnel around him.
Couple more minutes here with Rob King on the Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Kinger, speaking of tool belts and knowing where to go, what to use, all those different things, man, another just professional performance, tidy, buttoned up, efficient from Aaron Rodgers, 21 of 30, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. I think it was, in a weird way, it's more of what we've seen from Aaron Rodgers. This is what he's done. Take what the defense gives you, be able to assess and evaluate better than almost anybody in NFL history at the line of scrimmage, and go from there. But I think we're even seeing him expand on that, grow on that. He's standing back in the pocket for a beat longer and trying to move and buy himself some extra time. His average depth of target this week was over a yard more than it's been on average through the Steelers' first 4 games. I think he's getting more comfortable. The offensive line, as you guys mentioned, a big part of this, and it just feels like Aaron Rodgers on the same page with all his new teammates as well, and we're starting to see some growth and some progression there too.
Yeah, he's so good. I mean, and I think I still think he's really, really good, and we're getting an opportunity to see that with an offense that I think had some versatility. Now, again, we'll see as we progress and whether teams are going to adjust to what the Steelers are doing. I really think it's going to be a game plan specific team. You run 7 men in the box. Okay, here comes Spencer Anderson. Here comes Darnell Washington. Here we come. Okay, so you don't have great personnel in the slot or whatever. Well, this week we're going to see more Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith and Calvin Austin when he gets back in there. DK Metcalf, I think, is always going to be a given. And I do think they're going to try to run the ball, but those guys are weapons that can be utilized different ways in the passing game as well. So when you have this wide breadth of ways to attack a team, which is what I think it is. Everyone talks about the number 2 receiver, and I understand that discussion, but I think that the Steelers are going to try to thoughtfully utilize the weapons they have, and it's a varied palette of players. And who else to handle the paintbrush than Aaron Rodgers? I mean, his decision making is excellent. He is the best in NFL history at interception percentage. He takes care of the football. I think we have seen after the first game, he didn't look real mobile. He said, "Yeah, my back was stiff." I think he's shown better mobility. Is he going to tuck it and go 40 yards? No, I don't think he is. I don't want him to either. But we saw that throw he made. 2 throws stick out to me. The throw he made to Freiermuth in the Seattle game, and I've said this before, I think it's the best throw we'll see by any quarterback in the NFL this season. And it was incomplete, but it was just an incredible throw. And people aren't going to remember it because it was incomplete. But the throw he made yesterday, rolling to his right, directing traffic, throwing across his body on a line to Connor Hayward in the back of the end zone in a brief window across your body. Come on, man. Those are throws that I think that the majority of NFL quarterbacks could not even think about making. The old Muhammad Ali line, if you even dream about beating me, you better wake up and apologize. If they dreamed about making those throws, they should wake up and apologize to Aaron Rodgers, because I don't think many guys can make those throws. And still, I just think that, this is right now, as we stand here right now, and people are going to say, well, who have they beaten? Okay, I get it. I understand that. But I think right now there's a lot of stuff looking good, and to have him be the guy at the controls, not just the savvy, but the arm talent he still has, I think that's really good for the Steelers.
Rob, last thing I got for you, and you kind of mentioned it. I know Austin will return probably sooner than later. He didn't go to IR. I don't know if he'll be here Thursday or not. Who knows? We'll talk about it later in the week. But as I've been doing shows and sitting here in studio and talking through Steelers stuff with you guys and, Mike as well, I think I'd be a little more aggressive on that number 2 wide receiver. The season's going well. I'm not saying you mortgage first or second round picks or get anything real crazy, but one more piece for Rodgers to work with, to me, is getting more and more appealing as they keep winning games.
I understand that, and I talk with this sometimes with junior correspondent Schaefer King, junior correspondent on the show with Max Starks. So we have a lot of NFL discussions, and I understand. Look, my feeling on this is, as I've said probably on this air, and as I've told my son as well, I think that. So what's that going to cost you? All right. So, if you're the Saints, you have Chris Olave, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you want to get better. You want Olave to be a guy that's going to be around when you get better. Are you just going to give him away? I don't know if there's going to be, and then you're not going to sign a player. You're not going to get a kind of guy that you are going to then commit to long term and have to pay a lot of money to. That's just not going to happen. You're not that kind of a team. You're not the kind of team that's going to have, I don't think, $60 million wrapped up in 2 wide receivers. So I understand what you're saying, Matt, and in a perfect world, you'd love another weapon. Sure. You'd love another defensive lineman or another offensive lineman. There's lots of things you'd love. There's lots of places that I think if the Steelers see the opportunity and they think they can make their team better, they will. And in a perfect world, would you like a player like that? Sure. Then, there are other factors. The cost is the number one factor. The length of time you're going to get him back for, and which I would, circle into part of the cost, would be part of that equation. And then I also think that, how many, as long as you're winning, I think, things are good. Look at Philadelphia, right? I mean, those guys are upset they're not getting the ball. Well, you got DK Metcalf, you have Jonnu Smith, you have Pat Freiermuth, you have Jalen Warren, you have Kenneth Gainwell. You want to bring along Caleb Johnson as a rookie. You have Calvin Austin on the outside. You want to bring along Roman Wilson on the outside too. So there comes a time too where I think you could be facing diminishing returns. So I think it would have to be the right player at the right price. But you could say that, I understand. I'm not trying to be evasive. I think you could say that around the roster. To
Sure.
your point, Matt, if it was right place, right cost, right player.
I'm not saying it has to happen, but I'm just warming up to being a smidge more aggressive on that front.
I do think that, and we talked about the same thing last year. If there's an injury, that's a bigger problem to me than you need somebody. And I think it was a problem last year. And I've mentioned this a couple of times. I don't know if on in this show, but people talk about that 5-game losing streak at the end of the season, including the playoffs. Don't forget that the offense was exploding, and George Pickens was injured at the head of that and missed a game or two. I can't remember if he missed 1 game or 2, but that was a factor because you didn't have that next guy to step up and fill that void. That to me would be the biggest. I think it would be a bigger need. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they just maybe a second receiver in its own merits is the bigger need. But I think that would be the pressing issue for me. I'm knocking on wood as I say that.
And your dog is agreeing,
barking on wood,
confirming in the background. We are friends of the dogs here on this program, just not the dog pound. Rob King.
No.
Rob King, kind enough to lend us some of his time on a busy Monday, a condensed week here. Kinger, thank you. Great stuff as always. And we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you Thursday.
You got it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Chris Adamski, Buzz, thank you for taking the time as always. Before we get into some specifics, a kind of real generic 30,000-foot question for you, but who's the best team in the AFC right now?
You could ask, probably get a different answer all 5 weeks so far, all 6 weeks so far. I bet you get a different answer. It's not, we're not trying to be homers here or anything, but I mean, the Steelers have certainly entered a discussion, right? I mean, there's no reason they haven't. I mean, Buffalo, I'm not willing to write off the Bills, but these last 2 games, they both went on prime time. Everybody's watching. They've looked very ordinary offensively. I'm kind of, look at their wide receiver core, especially. What do they have there in terms of dynamicism, really? And so I don't know. I mean, man, you know what? Me and Tom had this discussion today, actually, on the Blitz, and I kind of talked through this like I'm doing now, and he hits me at the end. He's like, you know what, Chris? I think it's the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's kind of the conclusion we came to. I'm like, that's so boring, but it might be the Chiefs. Or if you're on board with the Colts, I think they've had the best year.
Yeah, they have the best. This was college, I guess, and you're judging it by resume, I suppose, if that was the criteria, or if you were to say who the best team is. And the Colts, certainly, they've been pretty much generally, although this week notwithstanding, blowing people out when they've won 2. And their only loss is to a pretty good team on the road. So they have the best resume. Their numbers look pretty good up and down in terms of you're trying to evaluate teams that way. I guess there's still, you're going to be skeptical about Daniel Jones, right? Until
proven otherwise,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but the Chiefs, in terms of, they're 3-3. They've played one of the toughest schedules in the NFL so far. They had certainly injury issues or absences for other reasons in terms of why maybe they haven't been as, dynamic on offense. So when they have all their proverbial bullets in the chamber, I wonder still, and they until proven otherwise too, they're also kind of the king of the mountain in the AFC, right? I mean, how many times have they lost when it matters in the AFC? What once the past 5 years now? It's ridiculous. So until that happens, I guess, and you put together what they just beaten maybe the NFL's best team the other day, I guess you got to say the Chiefs right now, even though they're 3-3.
Nobody wants to hear that, but especially with like Lamar getting out of the way and Burrow getting out of the way and all, but we'll see. What's your hunch on Calvin Austin's availability? I mean, I know right now it's still up in the air, but you leaning one way or another?
Yeah, well, he didn't practice today, so I would think that would mean, the Thursday game is a little bit of a different than a normal week where they don't practice on Friday. It's been almost unanimous over Tomlin's tenure that if somebody doesn't practice on Friday, they don't play on Sunday. Now the Thursday thing, you could talk yourself into it, I guess, but they also didn't. It's not like he just suffered this on Sunday and give a guy a day off, something like that. So I would pretty much at this point expect he's not going to play tomorrow. Thursday. Tomorrow, no. These short weeks all throw me off.
Oh, me too.
2 days from now.
Do you think Miller would be the direct replacement again? Seems that way.
Yeah, it seemed certainly. In terms of snaps, he did, and I guess you go by targets. There was only one target to be had was the whole core there, and I thought by the eye test, I thought Gainwell lined up a little bit more in the slot that game, but then from what I saw, at least the PFF numbers didn't say he did. I thought maybe that was they were going to kind of replace him more, by committee. Of course, on this jumbo package now. That's one fewer wide receiver you need for a lot of plays, but in terms of who that extra eligible wouldn't exactly be linear. In terms of Scotty Miller replacing Calvin Austin for all the snaps he'd play, I thought you'd see more Gainwell and maybe more of the tight ends, and I guess probably by extension there probably was a little more Jonnu Smith on Sunday than there would have been otherwise. But that seems to be it. But the sample size now is up to 5 games, right? So you add up Miller and Wilson and Skoranek, how many targets they have in totality? It's not too many. So whatever anybody's thinking about in terms of production, at least catch production, I don't know if there's going to be anybody who really steps into that role as the wide receiver too.
Well, Buzz, kind of sticking with a similar conversation, over the last 2 weeks, Darnell Washington has clearly been tight end number 1. Is that here to stay for the long term? Is that a function of just the opponents and the defenses they've played the last 2 weeks? Maybe the answer's somewhere in the middle. Do you expect to continue to see him being the lead car, the pace car for the tight ends, at least certainly in terms of snap count?
Yeah, I don't know if it was or if it has been or was their design that, hey, from this point on, Darnell's going to play, 3/4, 80% of the snaps the rest of the season. But maybe that was the game plan for Minnesota and the way the game flow played out, and then it's Cleveland sort of the same way. And you see the results with, you could say, the running game. You could say Washington's production as a receiver. A lot of reasons why it's working. The team's winning, obviously. And you finally, I don't say finally, but they're finally trusting maybe putting the pack. Obviously, you've talked about it ad nauseum for 3 years now, what kind of athlete he is, or unique individual he is, unique human being he is, or being that size and being that fast and having some of the skills he has. So he was projected as a possible first-round pick for a reason that year, and he fell a little bit, and they were talking about his medicals maybe or whatever happened there. So he has the pedigree; he could be that. And quite frankly, if he's going to, it's again, we've seen it so often. We've seen it for 3 years off and on, just some little sample sizes, I guess. That's why. But it's every time he catches the pass, it is still a marvel to see these, 6'2", 240-pound linebackers just kind of like 5, both, just stomping on them. It's something to behold. And it's easy.
Let alone defensive backs.
Yeah,
right.
Certainly them. Without saying that, yeah, just the way he just kind of seems like it takes 3 guys to tackle him every time he catches the pass. So you add this up and the way things are working, and there's obviously a lot of good vibes around the Steelers offense and the Steelers overall right now. And it's been, I don't want to say it's a direct result of him playing, of course, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
So it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, but the scariest aspect, without question, of this Bengals team is Higgins and Chase, right? I mean, it looks like the Steelers will be healthy at corner, and they've pretty publicly said Ramsey's their number one. How do you think they handle it, though? I mean, I still would kind of be shocked if it's just Chase and Ramsey on an island all day. I mean, that sounds like that's asking a lot.
Yeah, and it really hasn't. They haven't done yet this season. It's really hard to get an idea because this past game was the first game where the entire secondary was healthy for the entire game.
Yeah.
And you could get some kind of idea how the Steelers or how Terrell Austin and everybody was going to approach how they would defend teams. Now, Cleveland doesn't have an alpha wide receiver or a very very good wide receiver for that. Or
but we did see Justin Jefferson 2 weeks ago, and they didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would think now. I mean, they didn't have Joey Porter that game, so in theory, you put him, then you're making yourself weaker at number two, and maybe the Vikings don't have the same caliber number two that the Bengals have. So, in other words, I'm surprised at how open. Yeah, yes, they have a lot. They've built this secondary with a lot of options in mind. And they've been pretty upfront here, even this week. I've been surprised at how upfront they were. Like, yeah, we have the Bengals in mind when we acquire all these DBs we've been getting. We talk about these eligibles and the things we've been doing to get all these cornerbacks like this. That the Bengals were, target number one for why we're doing it. So now having a whole full complement of players available. But then you have the Ramsey with the hamstring, though. I mean, obviously he looked pretty healthy making plays the other day, but maybe you don't want to put extra stress on him. You know what I'm saying? Like it 3 days, a game 4 days later on 3 days rest, and you have a tender hamstring. Maybe you do want to keep him back in center field a little bit more than you would otherwise. So I still wouldn't predict it, but I also wouldn't be surprised because, like I said, I'm sure that they've had whenever they've acquired all these DBs, they had the Bengals circled this entire time. So whatever they got cooked up, it'd be fun to see.
Couple more minutes here with Chris Adamski on the Drive on Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Buzz, I think Matt and I kind of stumbled into a thesis maybe in the first segment of the show. We were talking about, of course, the challenges of Thursday night games, particularly in the division, particularly when you have to go on the road. Mike Tomlin just 2-8 on road Thursday night football games as the head coach of the Steelers, 0-6 when those are divisional games. Now, we kind of juxtapose that, however, with Aaron Rodgers, who is 13-6 on Thursday nights in his career. And Matt, I just kind of did the quick math on this.
Yeah.
9-1 in divisional Thursday night games.
Oh, okay.
Aaron Rodgers in his career. So 13-6 overall.
Familiar opponents.
9-1 in his division, and obviously he has not yet seen the Bengals as the the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Buzz, I gotta think. Listen, Mike Tomlin is not alone. His percentage is a little bit lower, but it is across the league a tall task for teams to win on the road on these short weeks on Thursday nights. But Matt and I kind of hypothesize that when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, obviously one of the greatest to ever do it at his position, he's going to walk into the Hall of Fame when he hangs him up, but he's also one of the smartest quarterbacks ever above the shoulders. Just the advantage that can have for your offense on a short week, less prep time, less practice time, all those things. Could this kind of be the elixir? Aaron Rodgers under center against a Bengals team who feels like they're ripe for the picking to get Mike Tomlin that first divisional road win on a Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at what the Bengals – I mean, the Bengals are last right now in the league, and this isn't no rate to Thursday nights, of course, but they're last in the league in point differential, and that's after starting 2-0. So you imagine how bad they've been getting beat the past 4 weeks now. They're minus 80 overall and minus 85 over this 4-game losing streak. So, and I know a lot of that was Jake Browning. A lot of that was Jake Browning giving the ball to the other team for the first 3 of those games, and he's not going to be part of this game. But you still have, and I know he's 40 years old too, and he's considered a smart quarterback and been around, seen everything, and joined a bunch of different teams and all that. So better equipped than most. But it was only 8 days ago, or actually, as we speak now, 7 days ago. So when did Flacco show up in Cincinnati? 6 days ago, right? So he's going to be 8 days later playing his second game in 5 days. So there obviously is a lot here going for the Steelers, and but you're right.
He hasn't even unpacked his boxes yet. Wherever he's,
yeah, you think about it. You show up somewhere unless he got there Tuesday night. He's game planning for a game. 5 days later to be the starting quarterback. 4 days later, and then 4 days after that, I got another game. I'm sure it's a frenzied time, and everything points to the Steelers, but it is crazy. I mean, just from a for entertainment purposes only perspective, people love to say it's cliche, but road teams in the division, you're always wary to back. The road team in a Thursday night game, you're always wary to back. And of course, we have a lot of data with the Steelers that provides. Although almost all those losses, unless they were on Thanksgiving, are against the Browns. Now, I don't know if that makes it better or worse, because like the Browns are that have been that great teams over the years or anything like that. But there was 2 on Thanksgiving with the Ravens, I think, and they played a regular Thursday night game whenever. Who was the kicker that kept missing field goals for the Steelers? Scobie. Scobie kept missing kicks over and over, and that's why they lost that Thursday night game. That was a home game, so I guess that doesn't count. But you get the point. There's a lot here that you would think would point to the Steelers, but then again, it's like #NFL. You never take anything for granted.
Chris, last thing I got for you is I'm curious your thoughts on Patrick Queen. There's so many right now, individual players on defense to get excited about. The first-round pick, Herbig, the corners, Elliott being back. I think Queen's right there with those guys, though. I think he's really played well of late.
It is crazy with this Steelers defense how you can go and talk, and me and Tom will talk for a whole segment about the defense. And I think it was like we got to hour 2 before you mentioned Derek Harmon. This is a first-round pick.
Yeah.
And, 3 or 4 games into his career, you just kind of like, yep, he's there. He saw what he did. He's doing his. It's like you don't even have to talk about it because there's just so many guys around him making. I mean, how can you ignore Herbig and Watts doing his thing? And it's just Ramsey's making splash plays, and you guys get lost because there's just so many playmakers right now. And that's absolutely right. Here's a guy who, I've talked about just in general that Queen kind of gets lost in his defense, or we kind of forget about how he was this for the Steelers a very marquee. I mean, literally the highest paid free agent they've ever signed outside the organization to bring in as a free agent, and was an all-pro when they brought him in, and he's been in the middle of the defense. And so you kind of do a great way of putting it, you kind of forget about him. But he's probably had a solid stretch here these past couple of games that he's had as a Steeler, and especially after the way those first couple of games went with the run defense overall and everything. And like I like to say, it's not just the Steelers are 4-1. I just think that they've been ascending literally almost every week, where you just feel better and better about the way they played after week 1 and week 2, certainly, and the way they're playing. Even week 3, these last 2 games, they've been at their best and almost up and down almost all aspects of the team. Almost it seems like, and the run defense in the middle of the defense, and remember a few games ago we were really worried about at least more so maybe Peyton Wilson, but in the middle of that defense, and man, that seems like a long time ago now.
Sure does. Things can change very rapidly week to week in this league. Just ask the Buffalo Bills currently how they're feeling. Chris Adamski, make sure you're checking him out every day on the Steelers Blitz with Tom Opferman. All his work in the Trib as well, too. Buzz, thank you for the time. Great stuff as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Always look forward to it, guys. Talk to you then.
There he goes. The second most popular Mars grad on the Steelers audio network.
Yeah, right.
Chris Adamski.
It's not a bad place to be.
That's all right. Top 2.
Right. Top 2.
And let's jump into some Matt stats here. Matt, couple of these that I want to run past you. We've talked a little bit about point differential and with Cincinnati.
Yeah, they're last.
Steelers went into last week -2 in the point differential. They are now plus 12, and that particularly on the back of winning 3 straight games as well, too. But Cincy, -80. Worst in the league.
And they were 2-0.
And they were 2-0 at one point, but you got to score more points than your opponent to win a game.
Yes.
I can figure that one out. And over their last 4 games, that 4-game losing streak, they have been outscored 100. Excuse me. I almost, it's so disgusting. I almost threw up in my own mouth. 140-55.
Brutal.
I mean, they're getting boat raced out here.
Crushed on both sides of the ball. Now, I will say, it was a little better with Flacco. I mean, there was nowhere to go but up.
Sure.
And it's one game, and at least
he's going to take shots to Chase and
Higgins. That's to say, that makes those two more dangerous. But their running game is horrendous. Their O-line's really bad. I actually think the D-line's a little bit better than it has been, but the back seven's a mess. And we've talked a lot about, young linebackers, how they get manipulated.
Yep.
These young linebackers are just running around with their hair on fire. I mean, it's rough right now. I mean, it's real rough.
Turnover differential, another thing that we track and keep an eye on and discuss week to week. Steelers now +7 in turnover differential, third best in the NFL.
Yep. And remember, like on some of these counting stats, that one's not as big a deal. They've played one less game than some teams too. So a lot of these, this time of year, Matt stats, a lot of things will be average per game, things like that, as opposed to they have the most rushing yards in the league. Well, you played an extra game.
There's only a couple teams that have had a bye week so far, and the Steelers are one of them. +7 turnover differential, third best in the league, only behind Chicago and Jacksonville, just like everybody thought with those two teams heading in. That's impressive for Chicago. We talked a little bit about the Bills and the surprise that was last night. My goodness, how good is Bijan Robinson?
We buried the lead, really.
Insane.
I mean, he's one of the best players in the league.
Good Lord.
Right.
Also, my two big takeaways from that were Bijan Robinson, good Lord.
Yeah.
And second is, why do the Atlanta Falcons wear any other uniforms other than those ones?
I'm not a uniform guy, but they're pretty slick.
So much better than their typical uniforms. But how about Chicago? Chicago finding a way to get it done in a weird one there against the Commanders on the road?
I think you should be pretty happy with where you're at in the Bears world. Caleb looks okay. You got a coach. You're trending the right direction.
First couple weeks were a struggle. I think that's to be expected.
Being a Bears fan the last 20 years or so since Ditka hasn't been easy.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
I mean, and particularly as it relates to their situation under center. But I think you got to be feeling as good about Caleb Williams as you have at any point. So Steelers +7 in turnover differential, only behind Bears and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cincinnati -4, only ahead of the Jets, the Ravens, and the Niners.
And I don't, at least history shows Flacco all of a sudden is not going to stop the turnovers from happening. I mean, that guy turns the ball over.
Correct.
A lot,
Correct. Steelers, another one that we keep an eye on, Matt, is sack differential.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone talks about turnover differential, and it's obviously a key indicator of who wins games. But right behind that, sack differential and explosive play differential. Steelers now +15 in sack differential in their last 3 games, +11 on the season in total.
That's humming, man. That's really
That's
humming.
where they need to be.
Yep.
And
that's exactly what we've been hoping for. And it started slow in that regard, but it's coming back in a big way.
And you're seeing it from everybody, know, as well, too.
Group
Keanu
efforts,
Benton getting involved, Jalen Ramsey getting involved. It's not just the typical Watt and Highsmith and Cam Hayward.
Right.
That, to me, has been very, very encouraging.
It's great that this is a knock on Cam, but it's great that you're less reliant on Cam.
Totally.
That's how you drew it up. It's why you drafted him in the first round.
It's the same thing. You said this a couple weeks ago, I think it was, but you were like, as much as I love Chris Boswell, I don't want him to be team MVP.
No, that's like a rich man, poor man thing. Right, yeah.
As much as we all love Cam Hayward, I don't want him to be, pacing the way by far in snaps and everything like he was the first week or two of the season for the defensive front.
Right.
It's almost like a less is more thing with him at this stage.
Like the Bills want Josh Allen to be MVP. I don't want Boswell to be MVP.
I don't want Boswell to be MVP. I don't want Cam Hayward out there for 90% of the snaps every single week.
Even if he's great at it.
Exactly right. And I think we have starting to see all of that stuff come together, and a lot of those guys sticking their hand in the pile for the defense has been a big part of that.
Some of those depth pieces have really stepped up. I mean, at every position.
Huge. It's not just the Herbigs and the Bentons and the Harmons.
I'm talking like Ukele, Black, Holcomb, Eccles.
Big time.
Yeah.
That's a great list right there that you just put together of guys who have really contributed and started to make a difference. Matt, last one here before we go to break and come back for hour number 2. Steelers penalized 10 times last week. That's the most penalties accepted against the Steelers since week 2 of last year.
Yeah.
How much of that was a function, though, of their sloppy play versus just a Ron Tolbert crew that we know throws flags at a higher rate than anybody else in the league?
I think it's 60-40 more towards the part 2 of that.
Okay, so you don't expect that to be a negative trend that we now need to keep an eye on.
No, because you go back
to
last year, they were the best in the league at it, too. But we got a long sample size here over 20 games or so where they're amongst the best. I didn't put this in the packet yet because they have the benefit of playing one less game than most, but I still think they're the fewest penalties taken. So on a per game basis, they're still going to be amongst the best. Pretty good.
I think so. I'm not worried in that department. I think one more was just or I think last week, part of me was just a one-off. That's what I'm looking for to describe it.
10 penalties, but it wasn't for an obscene amount of yardage either. It was only like 60 yards or something.
A lot of them were offsides on TJ a couple times and, things like that.
Lining up the neutral zone and stuff like that.
Correct. But hopefully we'll see that number much down lower here, much lower on Thursday night in Cincinnati. Here on a Friday where, Matt, it is not the result we wanted. It is not the mood that we were hoping to be in as the Steelers fall to the Bengals 33-31. And hey, weird things happen in divisional games. Weird things happen on Thursday nights. But I did not see it going down like that. I did not. If you would have told me before the game the Steelers are going to score 31 points, I would have been like, easy win.
Yeah.
I mean, Cincinnati will get 20.
Yeah.
It's not like they're going to blow them out, but 31 points, that'll absolutely be enough to beat this team. And it was not, as that Steelers defense gave up 33 to Joe Flacco, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and that Bengals offense.
Yeah, so a couple things. 49% of the game was great. 51% of it wasn't. And obviously that line of demarcation was depending who had the football.
It's like an election. You know what I mean? All you got to do is get 51% of the people to vote for you.
That was enough.
And you control the country.
Yep. And the Steeler offense made a few more mistakes than the Bengals offense in a pure shootout that you couldn't afford to happen. Now, it's a loss, so I think you start with the negatives. And going into the game, something we talked about a lot were, man, there's not many matchups that favor the Bengals here, But if they're, we often have the conversation, how can the Steelers lose this game or what could derail them? And the couple things that I stood out were Higgins and Chase. Of course. I mean, obviously, that's the lowest of hanging fruit. Steelers on the road in a division game, Thursday night, that hasn't been great. And the thing that we talk about with Merrill Hodge all the time is, never underestimate a wounded or embarrassed professional athlete, and it was kind of all the above. And I don't want to blame it seems too easy or too kind to the defense to blame short week on the road.
Yeah, agreed.
And I'm not going to use that as an excuse. But they did not have the energy and juice that they have the past 2 weeks on that side of the ball at all. I mean, just getting off the ball, getting guys the ball, aggression, violence, hitting, tackling. Now, it's not an excuse. You got to win. That's how the league is.
I think with some context, too, of a lot of those guys were sitting down the stretch against the Browns on Sunday.
Yeah. Right.
A lot of those guys probably got 10 snaps less in that Cleveland game than they would have if that was a one-possession game.
Like Watt had something going on at the end of that Browns game that wasn't really reported, but he wasn't really himself last night, No. But again, these are excuses.
Nobody on the defense was nobody was last night, though.
Right.
Cam Hayward had been playing very well. Didn't see it last night. Nick Herbig had been inevitable, quiet last night. I thought Patrick Queen was off to a fantastic start this season. Didn't play well last night. And then, of course, whoever you want to talk about in the secondary.
Nobody's happy with that.
Was nowhere close to good enough. And again, you and I said plenty of times leading up to that game, Jamar Chase is going to make some plays. T. Higgins is going to make some plays. Those guys are superstars. Those guys are gazillionaires for all pros and pro bowlers. And Jamar Chase is going to be in Canton one day for a reason. But my goodness, Matt, 16 receptions for 161 yards.
Was it 23 targets?
On 23 targets. He had 12
That's
targets. 12 targets in the first half, 11 in the second half.
Yeah. Now, that was horrific. I mean, the pass defense.
I expected that to change in the second half because that's one thing they did do a good job of last year. We talked about that a ton in the build up to this season. Best third quarter differential in the NFL last season.
Yeah.
And a huge part of that was those halftime adjustments, particularly on defense last year. Didn't see it at all last night.
No. Well, yes and no. It bothers me that I apologize. I'm lumping some of you together.
No, go for it.
Joe, not you. I'm talking about our listeners.
Hashtag you people.
The common fan will just be like, Chase is lighting you up, so obviously they made no adjustments. They tried different things.
They did.
Nothing worked.
But nothing worked.
Nothing worked. I mean, I would have liked to seen more press coverage.
That was the one big one.
And we're recording this at kind of a weird time. I have not watched the all 22. Like, yeah, they played man, but off man, they were just running right in front. Just an out route right in front of you. I mean, what's the difference of So they did try different people, and they did try different things. And the ball came out really quick, 2.4 seconds. Give Flacco credit. I mean, it's hard to disrupt things. But when you saw the ball coming out that quick, put your hands on, disrupt the routes a little bit more. There was too much free releases, for my opinion, just watching TV tape. Now, sometimes in this league or in any sport, Lemieux, you just go, holy cow, that guy's the best dude on the ice, and he's an unstoppable force. And that was Chase.
Sure.
And that's not okay. But it happens once in a while where you go, that dude's special. And he's special. But the run defense bothers me more. To me, that's the sin.
Chase Brown was averaging 14.8 yards per carry at the half.
Right. Big holes.
You know this. I'm assuming a lot of the listeners do. I do the halftime reports from the stadiums, wherever we're at. And one of this, it's like a scoring recap segment where we play highlights. Then it's an around the league segment. Then it's a stats segment.
Okay.
And so it happens very quickly, obviously. It's halftime. It's like 3-4 minute segments. And so the stats segment, I don't really kind of deep dive look at them.
You probably just grab 3 or 4 things
until
and
the
jump
2.5 minutes that I have in break right before we go to the final stats segment.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm looking at the iPad that we have there in the booth always with our stats. I'm like, this can't be right. Chase Brown is not averaging 14.8 yards per carry. We have a statistician that travels with us, Denny Pastufka, great guy. I'm like, Denny! I'm like yelling to the back of the booth. They're all back there having Skyline chili dogs at halftime.
Oh, I'm sure, right.
I'm like, Denny, this can't be right. He comes over and he's like, no, that's right.
That's exactly what happened.
And he finished with 9.8. So, I mean, it got a little bit better in the second half. But
that's still unacceptable, especially for where that running game was.
108 yards on 11 carries.
Yeah, and it wasn't like he busted one 80-yarder and you kept him in check for all the other ones.
He did have the 37-yarder, but that's not an 80-yard outlier, like you're saying.
It wasn't like, well, okay, we had one bad play.
And even Samaje Perine was going for 4.5 yards a clip.
And they were big holes.
And they were typically in those short yardage situations where he needed 2 yards and he got 5 every time.
Yeah, and the tackling was really poor again.
That was something I had in my notes to bring up with you. After that was an issue at the start of the season, it felt like it was moving in the right direction the last couple of weeks.
Oh, it absolutely was.
Went back to being an issue big time again last night.
And I really hesitate to keep bringing it up, but you do often see really bad tackling on Thursday night games, period. Yep. I mean, how many times have you seen Derrick Henry on Thursday night, stiff arming Jags and Titans and
Josh Norman,
right. I mean, again, that's not okay. It's one of the reasons I hate Thursday night football is you don't give as many guys the ball, you don't arrive with as much aggression, you're just a little off. It's not okay though. It's just not okay. And again, that was not. I did a show with Triv. It wasn't Jim Brown, it was Chase Brown.
No, and I said this to you guys before we started recording. We knew that they were going to make some plays.
Yeah.
You combine, it's in their place, which, by the way, they had that whole whiteout thing. The place was jumping. It was loud.
It seemed that way.
They were ready to go. It was like a collegiate-type atmosphere. They were ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, wounded animal, embarrassed animal. If we lose this, we fall to 2-5 and our season's over.
Oh, yeah, it's desperation
There's a
time.
huge, we'll talk about this with the Steelers. There's a massive difference between 5-1 and 4-2.
Oh,
the
division's so happy it went this way.
There's a massive difference for the Bengals between 3-4 and 2-5.
Well, that's the difference of trading Trade Hendrickson tomorrow.
Exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. You combine all those things. It was never going to be let's stroll in there and win by 3 touchdowns and this will be easy and we'll beat them.
Everyone in their building knew they had to
we'll
win this
beat
game.
them 30-10. You know what I mean, or 27-10 or something like that. But it also, Matt, should not, cannot, Thursday night, I don't care if you're playing against the greatest show on turf. I don't care if it's Montana and Rice.
Yeah. I don't care if it's a doubleheader from Sunday and you're so tired you can't even walk. It's still not okay.
They scored on 7 straight possessions.
Yeah.
Like that cannot happen. That just point blank, and I believe, I got to double check this, I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it their last 7 possessions of the game? They scored on all straight of their last 7 possessions of the game.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. No, sorry, they had 1 punt in there.
Did they?
7 of their last 8 possessions
resulted in points.
Field goals or touchdowns. Again, I don't care if you're playing Montana and Rice. That can't happen.
It can't happen. And Chase is Rice.
I mean, yeah.
Sure. That's the level of player he is. But you made it too easy on Joe. I mean, and So I didn't bring this up yet because I've been on a bunch of stuff and I've brought it up a couple times. But I did a national show this morning, Locked on NFL, where I'm just a guest one day a week. So we open obviously every Friday with the Thursday nighter.
Sure.
And my co-host has no skin in the game. You know, he knows I'm a Steeler guy, of course. And he went, man, that was a really enjoyable game. Of course, if you don't care who
wins.
in
Chicago or Detroit or Cleveland or Baltimore.
Or just a fantasy guy or a bettor or just a fan. That's a really enjoyable game, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I thought that was a master class in quarterbacking. You know, that you could see their experience.
Totally.
And he, we were talking about some younger quarterbacks. He's like, Caleb Williams should watch that game. You know, like they just took what was there. Boom, boom, boom.
CJ Stroud should watch that game.
And Flacco still can do that. And I didn't know that he could. You know, I mean, he had one good half against Green Bay really for the last year and a half or so. And I'm like, Joe's done.
Maybe it's the Toby Keith thing for him. Like,
right.
As good once as I ever was.
I remember this Tomlin rival, and I've played a lot of games against Steelers, and my team needs me bad, and throwing to Chase and Higgins is a lot more fun than being a Brown. Let's make a run at this thing. I got Burrow in my quarterback room yapping at me to save the season. Let's step it up, and he did.
You would still see that from Ben from time to time at the end of his career. You referenced Lemieux earlier, like when he was 40, coming back from his third retirement, and his, 17th major health issue. He would still have a 3-point, he didn't go out there and have 2 goals and an assist, and he'd be flying around and looking like he was, the best player in the world for a couple minutes.
Jordan doesn't dunk from the foul line anymore, but he spots you up.
LeBron's like 40 now, too, but every once in a while he'll still dunk on somebody, exactly right. Steph Curry will still pull up from his own free throw line.
And we've seen it all year with Rodgers, which has been a blast.
Exactly
right.
We
saw the wrong end of it from Flacco.
Yes, exactly right. And, Matt, in a game like that, kind of the ultimate minutia is the turnover battle, and you lose it definitively.
Yeah. You guys were talking about it before the air, and we talked about it on the show that I just recorded. I thought the Steelers were going to blow them out. I mean, when we were like 2 series in,
yes.
And then you just made a couple little mistakes, a penalty at the wrong time or settling for a field goal. Like, I felt like you could have buried them early. And the Steelers from Pursuta, he said, you missed. You almost had the knockout in the first round.
Yeah.
And then you lost the 15th round decision.
It's a great way to put it.
And I was like, you said it so perfectly.
That's a great way to put it. I blame Rob King. After the Steelers made that field goal to go up 10-0 and we went to commercial break, he looked around at all of us in the booth, Max Starks, myself, our producer Dan, our stats guy Denny. He was like, I think the Steelers might blow this team out tonight.
I almost tweeted it. I'm like, when it was 10-0,
I blame Rob King.
Yep.
But that was, you go up 10, you fall behind 10. You scratch back in it and take the lead, and then just the ultimate frustrating ending. As you mentioned, a very entertaining football game.
Yeah,
if you're watching that in Philadelphia or Dallas or Kansas City, you're like, this is a great Thursday night game. This is a lot of fun.
Entertaining,
between two,
And the old quarterback thing had to be fun, right?
Yeah. At quarterback, absolutely. But man,
not as fun for us.
It's one of those games too, Matt, that like. It's almost, if you just find a way to hold on at the end, all of your sins are excused.
And
because you can play it's a weird Thursday on a road, back-to-back divisional games.
That's exactly what we'd be saying right now.
You just got out of there with a win, and that's all that matters, and now you got a long week to prepare for the Packers at 5-1.
That's one of the things that bothers me a little about our profession is if by chance the Bengals drop a pass or
God forbid they shank that field goal.
Right, exactly. That guy just misses the field goal. It hits the upright.
Like Minka Fitzpatrick a few years ago blocks the extra point at the very end.
Right. I'm like, if Cam gets a hand up here or this guy ganks it off the upright, doesn't mean one bit that the Steelers played any better.
Correct.
But myself, you, every analyst out here be like, they got away with it.
Found a way to win.
That's good.
Rodgers
Victory
played
Monday.
Great.
High
Jalen
five.
Warren ran for 127 yards.
They still didn't tackle or do anything to slow down Jamar Chase, no matter what. The game really didn't. This what we watched isn't any different.
I mean, T. Higgins 6 receptions for 96 yards. The 2 tight ends go 7 receptions for over 90 yards.
Yoshavas
and Fant 49 yards and 44 yards between the two of them, so almost 100 for those two. Matt, the average receptions for these guys: Jamar Chase 10.1 yards per reception, T. Higgins 16 yards, Yoshavas 16.3, Noah Fant 11.
It's obscene.
It's terrible to look at on paper. The eye test wasn't much better. You only get 2 sacks. You needed that number to be higher. No turnovers forced. You needed that to at least be 1 or 2. You had some big plays wiped out by penalties.
Yeah.
One was the hold on the Warren touchdown that ended up you had to settle for a field goal. Was there another was it on a special teams or again? It's so tough last night. We haven't had time to rewatch the game, and I think I got home at about 3 a.m. from Cincinnati. We're both on a lack of sleep.
I was just pulling up numbers while you were talking about their receivers, though, and everyone on the planet realized, wow, Chase was a monster in this game.
And he is. He's great.
But this is almost hard to wrap your head around. I mean, his average depth of target was just under 7 yards. So we knew the ball was coming out quick. I mean, it was 2.4 seconds for Joe last night. I mean, two twos like unsackable. Under 2.5 is considered a quick pressure. Under 2.4, 2.4's really humming.
That does not paint a pretty picture.
So Chase was not just destroying you downfield. I mean, his average throw to him was slightly under 7 yards downfield.
Yeah.
Yet
he's turning it into over 10 yards.
When you really reduce it to the common denominator, yards per route run, I mean, per route, there's many routes that the ball doesn't go to him, even though he got 23 targets.
Sure.
He was producing 3.35 yards per route run, despite not having a high average depth of target at all. So it's just constant. It's just every time 2 yards per route run is really, really good.
That almost breaks analytical analysis.
That's what I mean. I know that's a hard thing to wrap because most people aren't used to those numbers.
If football had a wins above replacement stat, that would break the system.
It'd break the system, right? Like we're throwing short and he's producing on a per route basis over and over and over and over at a really high level.
I know you're the stats guy here. You might have seen this one last night, but I did mention that those 7 straight possessions with points.
Yeah.
8 of their last 9, I think it was, with points, or 7 of their last 8 of their last 9, something like that, when it all shook out. I said, I don't care if it's the greatest show on turf. I don't care if it's Montana and Rice. That can't happen.
Can't happen, right.
Jamar Chase, 16 receptions. Did you see this?
I saw that part. Every one of them, yeah.
That ties Jerry Rice for the most receptions ever in a primetime game. I put in my notes here.
I'm surprised it's not number 1.
I put in my notes here, Jerry bleeping Rice. If your opponent is doing something only Jerry Rice has done, that's never going to be good.
Never going to be good. It's funny, Jerry Rice came up a couple times recently. Joe Flacco, Jerry Rice, and Jan Stenerud are the only guys that got traded that are older than Joe Flacco.
Okay.
Jan Stenerud's a Hall of Fame kicker from the 70s and 80s.
I have no idea.
Tom and I got a big kick out of that. He's
Jan
I remember.
Stenerud.
Yeah, he came over from Europe. He was one of the first soccer-style kickers.
Pittsburgh Symphony.
And people were like, he revolutionized kicking. So Jerry Rice and Jan Stenerud are the only 2 guys in NFL history that are older than Flacco that got traded. Like, nobody wants you when you're that age. They put you out to pasture.
Sure.
Unless you're Jerry Rice.
That is a great stat. And Matt,
yeah, that's nuts. Like you said, if you're doing same things with Jerry Rice,
it's not good.
Bad.
It's good for him.
It's good for him.
Bengals.
Bad for your opponent.
If your opponent is doing something that only Jerry Rice has done,
not great.
Not great.
He was ridiculously good last night, by the way.
He was.
I mean, sometimes you just have to go, wow, is that guy an amazing football player? The way he comes out of his breaks and how strong he is. And I mean,
he moves so well.
So well. I bet he was really fun to watch live, too.
Oh, my
gosh.
different.
Yeah.
That one where he bobbled it 4 or 5 times and then
I thought he might take it to the house.
Moved out of Slay's way. And that happened right in front of the booth. Right in front of us. And you know this,
the coordination and, balance.
Working in this industry, and I think you could still obviously relate to this. I mean, you were a scout in college, scout in the pros. You can get a little jaded going to so many games. And I always hesitate.
It gets somewhat routine, and it should never.
And I always hesitate to bring this up on air because I don't want to make it seem like I'm sticking my chest out and I get to go to so many Steeler games. But I go to 20. If you count preseason and playoffs, I've been going to 21 Steelers games a year, basically.
Sure.
For a long time. Ton of WVU games, ton of Penguins games.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean?
These are professionals or high-end college athletes.
When I lived in Philadelphia, I went to a ton of Sixers games and saw Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and those Warriors teams play. Saw LeBron and those Lakers teams play. It's very rare, and I'm fortunate to say this at this point in my career, of the hundreds of sporting events that I've been to, either as a fan or covering professionally, to still be like, wow, like that guy did something tonight that was different. That was special.
I hope everyone recognizes that. That's why I brought it up, because what he did was as good a receiver day as you'll ever see in the history of the game. I mean, like, it's...
When I was in college, LSU came to Morgantown. It was the first time game day ever came to Morgantown. They were ranked like 3rd in the country. We were ranked 18th, something like that. Huge
Big game, yeah.
And LSU beat us. And I'm telling you, if they didn't have Tyrann Mathieu, WVU wins the game.
Like, dude.
Like, he
I always said this about Troy, and his hair made it obvious. But, like, I'm not making fun of my wife, but she doesn't know what a first down is. But, like, if you go to a game and she's like, who's 43? Who's 66? Like, to me, that's the test. People don't know anything. Go, who's that guy?
When my
that would have been last night.
When my wife and I went 10 years ago to watch the Lakers play the Sixers in Philly, I'll never forget. LeBron had this play. He took 3 steps from midcourt and dunked it. Like, just prime athlete LeBron just exploded through the defense and threw it down. And my wife was like, "That's not normal."
Yeah.
I was like, "No, sweetheart, it's not."
A good friend of mine, our sons are the same age, and he invited us to go, and we couldn't go. But they did the typical, let's go up to Cleveland for a preseason game just so we can see an NBA game. And he came back, and I remember I was having beers with him that night. You know, he took his son, who was a big hooper. He was like 8 years old. He was young. He just wanted to see an NBA game. Took him to a preseason game. He comes back, and he's like, LeBron didn't play. That sucked. But this guy they call the Greek Freak did. And I never heard of him, but holy smokes. You know, he's 6'10" and takes 3 strides, and he's up and down the court. Like, everyone on the planet's like, who's that?
Yep.
That was last night.
We lost by 13, I think, to LSU, WVU in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyrann Mathieu, he played unbelievable. He forced 2 turnovers. One of them, he blitzed from the slot. Gino tried to dump it over his head to Tavon Austin. He jumped up and tipped it to himself and caught it, juked out Tavon Austin, and took it for a pick 6.
Like, he had a great pro career, but he was one of the best college defensive backs
you'll ever see. He probably should have won the Heisman,
He should have won a Heisman
as a defensive back. I'm walking off the field, and I'm telling all the people I work with, like, I'm pissed off. But I'm like, if they don't have Tyrann, if they don't have a strong safety, they lose that game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have Chase Brown last night, and he's a wide receiver. There's more
Jamar Chase,
Jamar Chase, pardon me.
And the other quarterback just couldn't give him the ball. You know, like,
right.
I mean, if it wasn't, if they would have had average quarterback play these last couple of weeks, Bengals season would be a lot different. Right.
Matt, 160.
And he wouldn't do that every week. But I mean,
sure,
it's probably going to be his best game of the year.
If you throw him the ball 23 times a week, he's going to put up some numbers. But
there's not really an answer for him.
But what's
the only answer is when their quarterback can't hit him.
Exactly right.
Right.
What's crazy to me about that is he didn't have one single what they would classify. We talk about this all the time as explosive play.
Right. It wasn't like, he had that 80-yarder.
His longest catch was 18 yards. That doesn't even qualify as an explosive play.
Which is a compliment.
That's what I mean. It makes it more impressive.
Right. They couldn't do anything against him. It wasn't like they screwed up once.
And he had an 80-yarder, and that completely skews his average.
Right.
He didn't even have
Deshaun Jackson gets behind the defense because he's super fast. He didn't do anything else the rest of the day.
Man, he didn't even have a 20-yarder, which is
every route was productive.
Just insane. Just insane. And then
if you don't care about this game, back to the point, you should have loved watching that.
Awesome.
You're right. Like if he plays Monday night next week and he beats the Browns tonight, like, Chase is awesome.
Great,
I love that guy.
Right. He's outstanding. And it just felt like one of those games where you were just waiting for the defense to make a big play, and they never did.
Yeah, because they so often do.
They so often do.
Even like when TJ and Cam collided for the sack, I'm like, there's going to be another one coming.
Exactly
There's going to be a tip.
They had one sack early. I think it was the first possession, Keanu Benton.
Yeah,
and then that one late, TJ and Cam. That was
like,
it.
When's the tip ball coming that's going to end up in a sack or
one or two other TFLs, I want to say.
Right, there was no big plays.
And that's the double-edged sword of this Steelers defense.
Live by it and die by it.
Live by it and die, but live by the sword, die by the sword.
And you have to be better on a down-to-down basis.
When they're not,
that's all year long.
When they're not winning the sack differential, when they're not winning the turnover differential, it is tough for them to be the defense that they should be, that they're supposed to.
And that part's troubling.
It is.
I mean, they're great at creating splash. Great, as good as you're going to see, but it's hard to count on. And the days you don't.
And I understand
it's been a slog.
Like, not everybody in the league has the pass catchers that Cincinnati have.
Of course.
Not even close.
Of course. A lot of teams wouldn't have still won the game.
how much did we talk about leading up to Thursday too? This is why you went out and got Ramsey. This is why you went out and got Slay. This is why you went out and reworked that secondary, was for opponents like this.
Exactly.
And it looked like that.
Yeah.
Not great.
Against these two, what you did wasn't good enough in the offseason. And if they played again tomorrow or in 2 months,
hey, could be they do play again in a few weeks. It certainly could be different.
I'm sure. Yeah, but I don't know who's covering Chase. I mean, frankly, this is a problem every defense is going to have. I mean, maybe Surtain would do better. Or there's 5 or 6 guys that would battle him.
Sure.
Not to a draw even, but would
Sauce
lose.
And Surtain.
Yeah. I mean, there's some guys, there's the elite guys. But to think, man, we're able to shut down Chase now, and then Higgins, ain't happen.
No.
Yeah.
It's not.
And
again,
Slay worries me. I still think Ramsey's fine. Porter's a little grabby, but Slay might be a little old.
And it's mad. It's not even because you and I said this. Every reasonable Steelers fan or media member said this. You knew those guys were going to make some plays.
They will next week. They will the week after. Yeah.
You could play perfect defense on Steph Curry. He's going to make some shots.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going
when he
to
drains one from half court. There's not a lot you can do about it.
It's going to happen. But it was way more than it was way more obvious.
It was excessive.
If those guys just make some plays, you probably get out of there with a 31-27 win or something like that.
That's why I said the sin was the run defense, because that
bad.
It was bad. I mean,
6.2 yards per carry, and that includes with kind of Flacco's skewed with the sack averages in there too. I'm sure if we take out Flacco's 5 carries for 3 yards, I'm using air quotes there. That average,
one of those was like a sneak, and one of them was a push or something like that. Yeah, right. But the run defense to me is more troubling than, Lemieux got a hat trick against you. Okay. I mean, he's going to get a hat trick against the Blackhawks and Capitals later in the year, too. You just happen to be on the wrong end of a bad night against the stud. Well, the run defense, though, especially with their history of being a bad running team, ooh.
I did not think that we'd get back to the point of, or that we'd get to a point now where maybe if you polled the Steelers fans today, and people are hyperbolic.
No, of course.
You laid this out like a couple plays, and we're all singing a different tune today. I've said many times, football is our favorite sport in this country. It's religion, and you get 17 maybe meaningful games a year if you're lucky for your team. Mm-hmm. Everybody does this. But I bet you if you polled Steelers fans right now, they might be feeling better about the offense than the defense. And I don't think
nobody saw that part coming.
What we saw last night, after what Aaron Rodgers was able to do, after what Jaylen Warren was able to do.
And we should recognize that was a bad defense, but I'm trusting the offense more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, that is the real bummer to me, because I'm sure you probably do this too. Once you get to the fourth quarter of games, I'm starting to think, what's the storyline? What's the headline? You know what I mean? If I'm Kabali and Dulac, or if I'm Dale and I had to actually write stories, what's the headline? What's lead?
My angle?
And it changed 5 different times in the last 5 minutes. Because you're like, okay, the angle is that now the offense did enough to make up for it, and you're feeling great about the offense, and wow, Aaron Rodgers.
Freiermuth broke free. Holy cow, saved the day.
Okay, now the angle is going to be the defense is going to be able to make the one play they need to win this game.
Tough night, but they made that one play.
And they were bad for 58 minutes, but they made... Okay, now the angle switches back to, the defense was bad and the offense wasn't able to do enough, and those 2 turnovers really loom large, and... That's how games go. A lot.
That's what people want. That's why people tune in every Sunday,
I'll be honest with you. There's times where, like, going back and watching the game and checking my notes and taking more notes and all that stuff can become a little bit of a task.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be whenever, probably Sunday night, sometimes Sunday when I rewatch this game. I'm very excited to sit down and rewatch this game.
Oh, I bet.
Because there's so much back and forth. There's so much to get.
It is an entertaining game.
There's been times in the past years, I'm sure you can relate to this. The Steelers win a game 16-10, and I'm like, I'm not excited to go back and watch this.
I kind of know the script, and
like those games where Kenny Pickett would make a couple plays at the end of the game, and they'd win 14-10, and I'm like, I'm not excited to go back and watch this. This was not a Mona Lisa. Like, I'm excited to go back. I don't know if excited is the right word, but I'm looking forward to being able to watch this.
There'll be a lot of tidbits from it,
Because, again, particularly that second half, particularly that fourth quarter, There was a lot going on.
There was certainly a lot of action.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
And again, it's an entertaining game if you're not in this camp. 31 other teams really enjoyed watching.
31 other teams really enjoyed
especially
it, but unfortunately,
the AFC North teams, which we got to get. I mean, the state of the division changed drastically. At some point in the next hour or Monday, we got to talk about how it affects the Ravens and Bengals.
And maybe we can start there when we come back, just for a few minutes. I know we want to go around the league. We got a bunch of tweets we want to get into.
Yeah, there's plenty.
Man, if you would have told me at the start of the season the Steelers would be 4-2 after their first 6 games, I would have said, let's do it.
We don't sign up for that, sure.
Let's do it.
Right.
But man, it does not feel that way today. It certainly does not feel that way today when you open the door for the rest of the AFC North and you are now 4-2 instead of 5-1 with a trio of tough games coming up here against the Packers, the Colts, and the Chargers. We'll wallow in it today, but then after that, let's all breathe and get back to it. Because, Matt, listen, that's the weird part of this. Is in the big picture, I think pretty much every reasonable Steeler fan would have signed up for 4-2 after 6 games.
Yeah. And everyone, not to
first
speak
place
for
in
you,
the division, 4-2 after 6 games. That's all you get told in August.
And I'm so dumb, and I do it every year. The day the schedule comes out, we do a
through
show,
and
and you look at it, and I'm like,
that's a loss.
Thursday night in Cincy. That's not going to go well. And it didn't.
It didn't.
You know.
It was not the Joe Burrow-led
Of course.
Cincinnati Bengals that we expected. Heck, Trey Hendrickson didn't even play. Cam Taylor-Britt didn't even play.
Well, he got benched because
he got benched for disciplinary
well, I
issues.
think he got benched because he's not very good.
Oh, that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there we well.
Both.
Regardless,
Right.
both. Yeah. It just it's a weird type of day because you can't be anything but disappointed, frustrated, upset with how that went Thursday night in Cincinnati.
But we're all crazy to assume you're going to win just walking into any NFL game.
Yes.
I mean, that's nuts, and we all do it.
I know I've told you this story before, but one of the first couple weeks that Moats and I think it was kind of a lot like you and Dale.
Mm-hmm.
Moats and I started doing the show together, The Blitz, in 2018, and it was like we met the day before.
Just getting
in a meeting with our boss, Brian.
Okay.
And then the next day we started doing a show together. So
boom.
There's a whole feeling out process
Sure,
and all
sure.
that. And I remember we're going through games or something like that a couple weeks into it. And I was like, I don't know if they'll blow them out. Like I use that term, a blowout. And Moats was like, let me just ask you real quick. Like, what is a blowout to you in the NFL?
We've had this conversation. I like it.
And I think my answer was like 2 touchdowns. You know, like if you lose by 2 or more touchdowns, that's 13 points, 14 points or more, that's a blowout. And he kind of like grinned, and I was like, why? What's a blowout? And he was like, in the NFL, anything more than a possession is a blowout. Like he's like, it's not Alabama. I'll never forget this. He goes, it's not Alabama playing South Central Missouri, Tennessee Western.
Yeah.
You know?
These are all professional, big-time dudes.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
He's like, every team has millionaires. Every team has all pros. Every team has coaches that know if we lose a couple games here, I'm going to be moving my family and looking for a new job, and I'm going to have to tell my son and my daughter that they're not going to school with their friends anymore.
And they're devious game planners and nasty, schemers. I'm talking about just the coaches. Yeah.
And so I think we are at times. I know everyone wants to talk about trap games. I don't think they exist really in the NFL. Now, if you're playing the Jets this weekend and you go and lose, maybe it's a trap game, but there's so few examples of that.
Especially in division.
If you're playing the Jets next week and then the Ravens on a short week and you lose to the Jets, maybe you could convince me that's a trap game.
Yeah.
But in the NFL, there's hardly any trap games. There's not these, 20-some point favorites that you see.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State losing to UCLA is 24-point favorites or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like you hardly ever get spreads over double digits in the NFL.
I mean, and unlike college, so many of these guys are a 30-year-old guard with 4 kids, $35 million in the bank that eats, works out.
That's it.
Everything.
Football is life.
To do this as long as he humanly possibly can, and that's why he has $35 million in the bank with 4 happy kids. You know what I mean?
Because there's 0.001% of the 8 billion people on this planet that can do
it.
Right.
Right. And I know how to maintain that I am invited back next
Football
year.
Is life.
Right.
I mean, look at Cam and how he's managed to.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers. Like, you ever watch Ted Lasso, the TV show?
Yeah, I love it.
Football is life.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's like how it is for all these guys in the NFL. And so maybe some of that is on us.
Every team has a lot of them.
Again, maybe we're naive to think, like, we're all predicting Steelers go in there and win 21-10 or 27-14. Like, maybe we're naive to be at that point. But man, like I said, the weird
These
thing,
aren't excuses, folks.
No.
Right.
This is just us reality here. But I also at the same time, like, it's like I'm driving in today and I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, it's a weird place to be because, again, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year, 4-2 in the AFC North after 6 games, you've got a game and a half lead on the Bengals and a 3.5 game lead, 2.5 game lead on the Ravens.
Yeah.
All of us would have signed when training camp started. If we would have
Great
said on
season.
October 17th, you're 4-2, you're first place in the North by multiple games, I would have said, prick my finger. I'll sign in blood right now. Where do I sign?
You lose in Cincinnati into a good Seattle
But
team.
it doesn't feel that way after last night's loss.
It doesn't. And a lot of that's immediate reaction, and you got a really long stretch here. If they beat the Packers next Monday, everyone's going to be losing their mind,
Back to, we're going to host a playoff game and we're going to go on a run.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they got this 3-game stretch coming up. Now, I'm not going to pretend that every game's as easy as the next. I mean,
sure.
But this next 3 games for Steelers could go very bad. I mean,
there's no doubt.
Chargers, Colts, and Packers, that could be an 0-4 stretch. And then you really have a different feel.
Absolutely.
I mean, times a million, right?
Absolutely, especially because 2 of those games are at home. 2 of those 3 are at home.
Right.
The one in L.A. is the Sunday Night Football out there, which will be a weird 5:20 local start for us for the 8:20 kickoff. But you get the Packers at home now, especially too with extra time to rest and prepare, and you get the Colts at home as well too.
You better respond.
Yeah, I mean, you better respond, and
you don't want to look back on the year and be like, that Thursday nighter was the beginning of the end.
Kind of like that stretch that the Steelers had around Christmas last year where things started to fall apart. You cannot let this be that stretch for you. And maybe it's a good spot for them to be in early in the season. Like, you also don't want to be comfortable.
No.
It's one thing if you're the Chiefs and you'd been to the last 3 Super Bowls and you go 15-2. Okay, you trust that team to know we got to turn it on. We've been here. We've done this. That's so rare.
Right.
That's so rare. Typically, you got to.
That was like the beauty of Belichick. You never let those Patriot teams get that way.
Never.
Right. Every day was harsh.
For almost everybody, you got to take your lumps up and down, up and down. I saw this on social media last night. I forget who posted it. I think it was a national person actually. That had, some Steeler fan that tweeted them. It might have been someone from NFL Network or ESPN, and some Steeler fan was like, this is proof that we can't be any better this year, and we're either going to miss the playoffs or we're going to get blown out, one and done again, And he quote tweeted it, and he was like, hey, just so you know, Tom Brady's first year in Tampa, early in that season,
they were disastrous.
They went to New Orleans, or actually I think it was a home game in Tampa. They lost 30-6 to the Saints. Like same thing, was week 7 or week 8, say end of October, similar timeline.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they were at home, and New Orleans and Drew Brees went in there, and it was 30-3 or 30-6 was the final score. And he was like, hey, that Tampa team won the Super Bowl. He's like, I'm not saying the Steelers are going to win the Super Bowl, but you can have bad losses. Almost every team, almost every Super Bowl champion team has bad losses. It happens. It's about how you respond and how you get better and how you improve from there. And maybe the Steelers needed that a little bit. Maybe they were, as much as every athlete, every coach preaches singularly focused. They're humans.
They still bad days.
This is another thing Moats would talk about all the time. We could talk about singularly focused. We can talk about one game, 1 week at a time, 1-0, forget everybody else, forget the bigger picture. And he's like, and that is true. You try and do that, but you're still human. We're 4-1.
One day's better than the next.
Look at Baltimore and look at Cincinnati and look at Cleveland. Maybe this could be a good crossroads moment, a good kind of kick in the backside for them to not be as comfortable as maybe they've been the last couple weeks.
So this comes from Ron Jaworski, who was way ahead of his time in terms of, he was a good quarterback, but then he really became a quarterback analyst. And like Greg Cosell learned from Jaws. This is 80s stuff, a long time ago, who learned from great coaches and all this stuff. And Jaws has this theory that all the work he's done on quarterbacks, and being a former quarterback who was in the league for a long time, a long-time starter, a good player, that every quarterback has 2 games a year where you just don't have your fastball. I bet pitchers are the same. And I can't let anyone know, and I got to paint the corners, or I got to figure out something. And I bet every position does.
Sure.
If you told Cam Hayward or Pouncey or Watt or whoever.
Even future Hall of Fame type guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I still was better than the average defensive end, but it wasn't a very good day
It was a
for
6
me.
out of 10 for
Yeah,
me,
like
you
I got away with it. Or, boy,
my
I
6
didn't
out,
get
my
away with
6
it.
out of 10 might be a 7.5 for everybody else.
Right. Or, man, I just wasn't skating as well. I couldn't shoot that day or whatever. You know,
My curveball wasn't curving.
Yeah, they're all going to have those days.
They are. They absolutely are. And unfortunately for the Steelers, a lot of them had those days yesterday, while Cincinnati.
Nobody picked each other up on defense.
Exactly. Yeah, particularly on defense.
The offense was great.
You find a way to win that game. We're coming in here today, or the whole first hour, we're singing the praises of the offense and talking about the offensive line and talking about Jalen Warren and Aaron
Tight
Rodgers
ends
and Pat Freiermuth and all that. Yeah. That's what makes it a little disappointing.
Right.
And that's the way she goes.
49% of that game was good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The two analogies that I really like are Pursuita's. You had a chance to knock him out in the first couple rounds, and you lost the decision in 15. And that, to me, was a presidential election type performance.
Mm-hmm.
You lost 49% of it.
Yeah.
But all the other side needed 51 was to celebrate victory and claim supreme power and have you feeling like total doo-doo.
Right.
You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the Black and Gold. Steelers Nation Radio.